Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Your son just smeared feces all over my bathroom.
Alex stolen as well. Now Murdoch stolen.
You will bring the jury.
It's always bad when I start with the feces sound clip. Oh, man. That's a rough morning, huh? Whoops, sorry about that. I was scrolling through and hit the wrong button. But there we are. There we are. So,
all rise. Court is now in session.
Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Recovery Addict. Thank you very much for being here today. We are catching up this morning, and then we'll be live this afternoon with the Michael Turney trial. And then sometime today, we have Sarah Boone in court. We have the last pretrial conference before her court date is scheduled for July 24th. Now realize she was originally scheduled for pretrial. She first started appearing in court in August of last year, and it kept just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. We think we finally have a good date. We think July 24th is the date, but we'll find out today if that's going to hold, and that's the number one thing I want to hear. If that's going to hold, then I know what my plans are for next week, what we're going to cover every morning next week. I know, it's going to. I'll be able to put everything together from there. But if for some reason her attorney or the state or the judge comes up with something that is a little more problematic with that schedule, we have a problem. But guess who doesn't have a problem? John Link. John Link doesn't have a problem because he won the internet today. Congratulations, John. Thank you for being here first in chat. First in chat has its privileges, its prize, punishment, whatever you want to call it. You get to own, or at least have a responsibility for, everything IP-related worldwide. That means you will be probably receiving phone calls from people who need to set their microwave clock, maybe reset the clock on their internet-connected fridge. So I'd say just quickly brush up on all the manuals. And you should be fine today. No sweat. You'll do great. As long as you keep the internet up and working, I think no one will complain. But thank you, John. Thanks for being here first. I appreciate that. Breaking the ice, letting everybody else know the water's fine. Come on in. Chat's a nice fun place this morning. KR, good morning to you. Britta Aller, KR again. Oh, sorry, Michael. Mammy, Sharon McDonald, first mod in chat. Sharon, fantastic. Denise Feldman Ursland. Tash is here again. You did a great job with the internet the other day, Tash. Thank you. Let's see. Carlene 313. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Tomorrow's hump day. Just saying. I'm just saying. Halfway there tomorrow. Michaela R is here. Eileen, Rudy Patootie. Hello, good friend. I'd say sir. Rudy, are you a sir? Are you a he dog or a she dog? That's my question. I know your owner is a she, but at least I think your owner is a she. I'm pretty sure your owner is a she. I get confused. Let's see. John, we got you because you're in charge. Golden Girls here. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Beppy Van Os. Hello from Holland. Good to have you here. Smiling Thrifter Pam. I did some thrift shopping over the weekend. I was going to film it, actually, for a secret alternate channel I may have on YouTube, which I've never confessed to having on this channel before. Anyway, Jackie Hughes is here. Grace Sanchez, Grace, thank you. Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, good morning to you. Twubble, Open Mouth, Change Feet. I like that. That is a good life instruction for me. Daisy's Forever, Colette, good morning or afternoon here in surprisingly rainy Scotland. Wonderful. Tash, hello. Sharon McDonald, Twubble, Tanya Seifred, good morning. Paula MC, I'm the guy. I'm the guy. This is Rudy Patootie. Greeners, wrong answers only. What's the channel? Oh, man, you're going to get me in trouble. Congratulations, John. Appreciate that. Debbie Wilson's here. I think we've got a few people filing in. We're a little early. We are a little early. What's this I hear about a secret alternate channel? It's I'll say it's very similarly named to this one, and I don't think you can find it because it has not entered the algorithm. It has a whole 0 subscribers, but I'm building a secret channel. I really am. I'll tell you more later. We'll get there. I need some stuff on it first, of course. Debbie Wilson, good morning. Deebs is here as well. Trisha D, Kay Scarpetta, Eva Lanham. I've probably said your name wrong every time I've done it, Eva, but sorry. Casey is here. Ashley, KX Star, good morning to you. See the hands raised for roll call. We're going through these here. Eva, Ellie, Shells, Rona's here. Angela, Britt C. Got those backwards, but I nailed them both. Well, all right, you can confess your channel to us. We'll keep your secret, honestly. Michelle Stark. Okay, I'll tell you the name, but I'm not sure if you can even find it by search because there's nothing out there on it. But it's, I believe it's called Live Discovery Addicts. I hope. But it goes by, I think that's like the actual channel name, but it might just be Discovery Addicts. That's the short name. I'm not sure. Let me know if you find it. Rona, Jenny R13, Christy G, Christy as well. 2 Christys back to back. It's always good when we have back to back names. Lee is here. KR taking it easy. Good to have you here, KR. Tammy L, Karen Dietrich, Paula MC again, Adriel Hillis. Let's see, Karen, Erica 843. Good morning. Good to have you here. Let's see. Somebody, Ellie Veldman just gifted 5 memberships, so 5 more people are green this morning. Let's see if we can find out who that was. Rona McCaw, Angela Springman, Courtney Arleo, Carlene 313, and Courtney with Butterfly. So 2 Courtneys became green today. Courtney with Butterfly and Courtney Arello. Your name's killing me, Courtney. Arleo. It's simple. It's not hard. It's just my head and my mouth just can't communicate this morning. Let's see. Who did I miss? A couple. Erica, Adriel, Lizzie. Good morning. Back and caught up on opening statements. Thank you. Wonderful. We're going to catch up this morning with what happened yesterday at 1.25 speed because it's a little bit longer, and honestly, the prosecutor is difficult to listen to. But we're going to do that here in just a minute. We'll get going, and then I'm going to keep my ear to the ground for Sarah Boone, for when Sarah Boone happens, because we want that update. It's not going to be like riveting video from the courtroom. I don't think we're going to see anything really, explosive from there. It's just we need the facts. We need the data. We need the info. Debbie, good morning to you as well. Colette, good to have you. Red Pen. Rona, I'm back to gray. Rona, it's short-lived, I promise. Look at that. Look at this. I'm back to gray, and then the next thing that happened was Ellie gifted memberships, and the first person that was gifted a membership was Rona. Literally, that was how quick it happened. That is hilarious. So your comment, speak and you shall be acknowledged. I think that's what happened. Let's see. Loved your time with Dr. G. We're hoping I need to connect with him because he may be available this Friday, and I might see if he wants to do something this Friday. But we'll see. I haven't talked to him yet, so give me a minute. Verity, good to have you here. Let's see. JREPTX is here as well. Ashley, prayers for Churro. I don't know what that means, Ashley. I don't mean to be flippant about it. I'm not sure if that who Churro is or what. Oh no. Okay, I missed it up here. Hang on one second. I think it's related to this. Christy is Churro. I read your name and probably not the message. Just one second here. Let me see what's happening here. Where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. Would someone tell me what I missed here? How is Churro? Christy's dog. Thank you, Ashley. Christy, I hope everything is all right. I'm not sure what the situation is. I missed it. That's my fault. I apologize. But thank you for alerting me to that. Let's see. Jen Pookie, please take your seat. Welcome. Good to have you here, Jen. Ellie, Red Pen. We've got our sounds on, right? I haven't heard any sounds this morning. Are the sounds working? I mean, I'm about to hear all of them, I'm pretty sure, but oh man, I'm sorry. I hope all goes well. Fast recovery there would be awesome. All right. I'm losing interest in Melly. Melly's a tough one to follow for me. I followed little bits, and there's some parts in there that are interesting and funny. I was kicked back,
taking it easy.
But it's funny when you choose a case to follow, you never know what's going to happen. You never know how it's going to end up. And so when Brandy chooses a case, and sometimes we communicate a little bit, and we say, hey, here are the cases that are coming up, and I'm like, I'm leaning towards this one. She's like, well, I'm going to follow this one. You never know. You're like, this might be a good one, right? This might just be like, holy cow, this is video gold. Every time the court begins, it's like a circus, and we can't tear our eyes away from the screen. And other times you get like Mark Jensen rewatching video from like 15 years ago with a watermark on the top of it, and the audio's bad, and it's just droning on and on for days. And you never know. You might have the 7-disc or the 12-disc box set of interrogation video where the camera was just left rolling that we watched the entirety of in the Border Patrol murder trial. You just never know what's coming, and so it's sort of it's the luck of the draw. Good morning, Michael. Good to have you here, Christy. You're welcome, Christy. You've got a supportive group out here. A lot of us like pets, so we're here with you. Fingers crossed for Sarah Boone going on. Yeah, Eva, I think this is the time. It just feels like it's going to stick this time. Let's see. Good to see you. Good morning. I'm waiting for the suitcase trial. She seems as nutty as a fruitcake. I actually put in a request this morning for something we've already seen, but I want my own copy that's not watermarked by anybody else. So I've got a request into the sheriff's office for that. We'll see how quick they respond and how much they charge me. Good morning, everyone. I'm not really feeling the Melly trial either, but I've tried, but it's more stop than start. It may be hard to get into this one as well, Lisa. We'll see. We'll see how this one goes. Let's see. If not for Brandy. Brandy is awesome. Oh, my goodness. Brandy is amazing. No interest in Mel either, but Burgos Villas has been wild, says Shelley. Don't forget to leave your touch DNA on the like button. Thank you, Sharon, for the reminder. Anyway, we're gonna kick things off here with a little bit of let's go back to live. There we go. It's funny because if I hit the wrong button twice on this machine, it stops working, and I have to take it apart and fix it. It's a design flaw. I'll tell you that. But anyway, we're going to jump into court if you guys are ready. You've been watching the Texas Border Patrol murder trial. Mary, you're talking about the one where he killed the street workers, multiple girls, and when the police were on his tail, right in front of him type thing. Sir Boone is innocent until proven loony. Let's not forget that, folks. Mr. Man, thank you for the reminder. The sound effects are working. Thank you. Let's see, when does Sarah's trial start? Well, we don't know today. She was actually scheduled for this morning. She has a pre-trial conference, which is not her saying anything. As a matter of fact, I doubt she will be given the opportunity or even the microphone to acknowledge anything. She has the right to be there, and so there's a chance she'll be there on camera. But really, it's going to be between her and her attorney, because the state's already said they're ready to go. Hey, 3.5 days. Give us 3.5 days, Judge. We'll try this case, and we'll be done. And we're ready to go. The defense is the ones that say, we need more time. We need to find an expert witness, and we can't find one. No one will. For the amount the state covers, right? Because Florida is paying the bill. Taxpayers are footing the bill for the expert witness in Sarah Boone's case. That's what happens. It's the legal system. You might be frustrated with that, but that's how it works. They're also paying her just her legal bills for her attorney, which Sarah Boone might think might be very cheap because he's not doing much according to her, but it does add up quite quickly. A public defender paid for by the taxpayer. In this defense, they've determined that it's probably the best thing if the attorney, if Sarah Boone has a defense that is focused around the battered wife situation, where and even early on in her interrogation in the police station, she mentions that George hit her with a curtain rod not too long ago. So there are elements that are there that they can draw on and say this is why she did what she did and why she acted the way she did. But really to make that stick, to make that punch, because there's not a ton of evidence, like physical evidence on her. There's not injuries. We know that they took like full body pictures of her to see if there were any injuries. There's nothing really there. So they're going to need an expert to say, hey, she could be acting out based on abuse she received or was recipient of a time before. And it'll take an expert to really testify on that because it will take some speculation. The problem is the state pays, like, we pay $10,000 for experts. That's it. No more than $10,000. We're not just going to run up the bill and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes, I do sell these mouse pads, and some of them have less dog hair on them than mine. Actually, they come straight from the printer, by the way, Philip. I think if you type !mouse, it'll show up. Anyway, so they're going to pay this set fee, which is $10,000. The problem is all the experts in this field are looking at her case and looking at the facts and saying, I would have to testify that this woman did these things because of this situation. And they're saying, that's not enough money for me to do that. Basically, my career's not worth that. That's what I hear when they say, I won't testify for just $10,000 in this case. It's so damaging to my case. I'm going to need more money than what you're offering. So they may not be able to find an expert witness, and they probably today, if they're not able to find it, that will be their big beef. They'll say, Judge, I need more time to find an expert witness that will testify. Anyway, I can buy a mug from Australia. Yes, they're on eBay, and they do ship internationally, Courtney. Unfortunately, I wish I could make it cheaper, but the shipping is sort of what it is. Anyway, So that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the lawyer either say, hey, we found our expert witness. We're good to go. We haven't found our expert witness. We need more time. Or we haven't found our expert witness. We want more time. And the judge says, no, you have to just go with what you have. So those are basically the three outcomes that I foresee. I don't see anything else really being raised. There may also be a filing with the defense listing all the possible witnesses that they may be calling because the state has asked for those. And it's sort of like part of the disclosure back and forth. But that's where we are. Water, hydrate. I will do that. Before we start, I'm badly in need of water. Here's your warning.
Is that correct?
Alrighty.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
It tastes delicious. It tastes delicious. I need to turn my focus on. Oh, it's on right now. Autofocus. True crime addict on one side. Objection overruled grounds on the other. They are available on eBay if you type !mug. And I think, if I've done the math right, I think I earn 26 cents per mug. I wish it was a little cheaper. We've got to find another place that has these quality of mugs that I can sell directly without going through eBay, so that there's actually, a cheaper cost for you and maybe even some profit for me. That would be great. Anyway, that's where we are with Sarah Boone. So we're watching for that. Watching the actual what happens in court is not going to be nearly as interesting as sort of the results of what the judge is going to rule. We're also watching, it is possible that Sarah Boone has written another letter. If you look at the timing of her previous letters and how she sort of does it, she's sort of connected to anniversaries and dates, and it's been X number of days, it's been 30 days, it's been 6 months, it's been 3 years. She has these milestone markers in her life where she communicates with the judge. and so it's very possible that she will have another letter that maybe the judge has received already that is taking time to process, because it takes almost a week sometimes, just because of all the stuff that the court is doing to get the letter from being received, acknowledged, processed through the system, and filed and showing up on the online register. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled for that, because sometime between now and the trial, if there is another letter, I expect it to be received and posted. So that would be fun if we get a sixth letter. That is correct. And it may be the best one yet. If you look at all her letters, and I have been reviewing those as we've been preparing for the Sarah Boone ramp up, if this proceeds, which we'll be doing next week. We'll be following Sarah Boone's case and ramping up and watching a lot of things and talking about it, getting ready for the case to start on the 24th.
Because he's the guy.
Michaela, we may be watching Sarah Boone today if we can get the feed. It's going to happen so quick. We might have to watch it a little bit after the fact, but we're definitely keeping our ear to the ground to see what happens. Anyway, I think there may be another letter, and it may be the best one yet. That's all I'll say.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
Let's see. Natalie says, Natalie, the lawyer chick, and she thinks battered spouse will not fly. I was watching her as well. I think she was on with Kurt from Uncivil Law, and I saw some of the same stuff you're mentioning there. She sort of torpedoed her own defense in what she said to the police, but I still think that an expert witness would be able to twist or pick out or draw or extrapolate from what she has said enough that may be a semi-viable defense. It may be her best route of defense still. Just going through, I was listening even this morning. I was going through listening to the interrogation again and just picking out little parts, listening as if I was that expert trying to find material to pull from. And there's some in there. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, we're going to get started here on Michael Turney as we're trying to catch up, and we are watching at a higher speed. This is sped up a little bit, 1.25 speed. It's not super fast. It's not going to give anybody a headache or make their head spin, but it's going to be fast enough that we can get through it without falling asleep. So let's see. We have it going. We have audio turned up.
Back there.
There we go. And let's take the cameras. Now we need our counter for when the let's see, where's our counter? Super source. Okay, is our counter ready? 54. We're at 54. So this is good. So what we're picking up now, this is high speed. We are catching up from last night. So this is everything after lunch yesterday in the Michael Turney trial. Then once we're done with this, obviously we're going to have a pause whenever we have Sarah Boone, so we can interject that. Oh, there's our Gandalf. I think we're going to call him Gandalf.
On the record in State versus Turney, let the record show the presence of counsel. Mr. Jackson, you waiving your client's presence for purposes of addressing this issue. Go ahead.
Your Honor, during the lunch break, we had played some clips for Sarah Turney. It is my contention, based on her testimony, that her father brainwashed her, that she was told these things, that the jury be able to see these clips to show her demeanor while she was making these statements to Detective Anderson. So I was going to show 3 clips. One of them is 15 seconds long. One is...
He's saying she was brainwashed?
About a minute, and the other is about 35 seconds. The state says they object, so I thought we would have that discussion.
Get back to the microphone, sir.
I do believe it goes to her testimony.
There you go.
Well, the proper way is to ask, first of all, play it for the witness. It either refreshes her recollection or it doesn't. If it doesn't refresh her recollection, then it's hearsay. I mean, in other words, if it refreshes her recollection, then she can say, yeah, I remember saying that. If she has no memory of saying it, it's hearsay.
So you're moving to admit portions of the interview?
Not admit, just play them in court as demonstrative. There's nothing saying that it's hearsay. She's agreeing that she made those statements.
Hey, there's the defendant.
We're not asking reflection. She has made statements to this jury that her father brainwashed her.
I get it. Let the record reflect the defendant is now present. Well, if the jury is seeing it, then it's got to be admitted. Okay. So you're moving to admit portions of the interview.
Yes.
And you believe it's admissible because?
It is impeachment evidence to show that she wasn't brainwashed. Her demeanor while she testifies is allowed all the time in courts where people are saying something and saying that something else happened. Here, she is saying that none of this is true. I just said it to the police because I was brainwashed. The jury should be able to get to see her demeanor while she was talking to Detective Anderson.
When the prosecutor talks, it still sounds slow, even sped up. Thank you, Ashley. It's so good to be here with you guys. So they waived the appearance of the defendant only because he was showing up, and they had already planned on doing this. But then the defendant showed up, so I guess the waiver doesn't matter for the rest of it. Judge is ruling on whether or not these can be admitted. This is video of a prior what's it called? Not interrogation, but a prior interview. Ritz, I have to turn that off now. Okay, we'll turn that down a little bit. This is going to be video of a prior interview of the defendant, Sarah Turney, and he's saying it's my argument that this video proves that she's lying either then or now, one of the two times. Either way, you won't be able to believe her. The judge is pondering, thinking it over. We've got him on 1.25 right now on everybody, sort of like a happy medium. The counter, Katie, is for the cough counter for the state prosecutor. We call him Gandalf. When Gandalf gets up, every time he clears his throat or coughs, we're just making a note of it. Not that it matters in the court proceedings for the legal ramifications, but that it happens to be the most frequent thing that is occurring in this court. And that's what we're counting.
I've considered the rules. I think probably the closest rule that applies is Rule 613, which pertains to prior statements of witnesses. Extrinsic evidence of a prior inconsistent statement is admissible only if the witness is given an opportunity to explain or deny the statement, and an adverse party is given an opportunity to examine the witness about it, if justice so requires. So I think it's premature to offer the videos yet. She's still being examined, so I'm going to deny the request at this time. You may renew the request after she's had a full opportunity to explain or deny her statements now that she's been given an opportunity to see the video. So the request for admission at this time is denied.
Okay, so
anything else before we bring the jury
in? It might come in.
No, Your Honor.
All right, Angela, you can bring the jury in.
That's a loss for the defense, but it's also a win because he's basically just given them the roadmap.
And Ms. Turney may resume the witness stand. I thought I saw her somewhere in here.
Good to have you here, Franco. Better late than never, right?
If you will bring the jury.
The defendant is wearing headphones. That's for hearing. He actually has like a whole list of medical issues that they've cited as reasons why he should not be held in jail, that he should be let out and get treatment, including heart problems. I think hearing, vision, pretty much everything is on the list. He's 75 years old. So he will wear those headphones, and everything the judge said, everything has to happen in front of a microphone because the jury also can't hear unless it's over the in courtroom microphones. Jury's coming in now, though, so we're about to get started. He wasn't this old. Yeah, this was 20 years ago. This is a cold case. It was a case that the police really had no interest in initially, and according to what we've heard, the defendant was the one trying to get them involved.
Let the record. We're back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record reflect the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Sarah Turney is back on the witness stand, and Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready, you may resume your cross-examination of the witness.
Good afternoon. Going back to before lunch, I had asked you a few questions about a couple things, and you didn't remember those things or didn't remember saying them to the detective, so I had you listen to them during lunch. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I had you listen to about 3 or 4 clips?
Yes.
And then maybe another one that we may talk about here in a little bit.
Okay, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And in one of those clips was in regards to whether Alyssa had ever talked about going to run away. Do you remember listening to that clip?
Yes.
And on direct, you said that no, she hadn't ever planned on doing that, correct?
Yes.
But you listened to that clip, correct?
Yes.
And in that clip that was played, you were asked by Detective Anderson if she had ever thought about running away, correct?
Yes, I believe that's what he said.
And you said all the time.
Yes.
And you said that her and your father fought all the time. She wanted to get emancipated. She wanted to run away.
Yes.
And then he asked you about when these things happened and why they happened. And it was because of being caught with drugs, getting in trouble, stuff like that, correct?
Yes.
In another clip, you were asked about her being experimental. Do you remember listening to that clip?
Yes.
And in that clip, you gave an example, and you listened to that one, correct?
Yes.
And you gave that example about her getting into car with people that she didn't know.
Yes, a story I had heard. Yes.
It's from her friends. That's what you said. It was from her friends.
I said she was with her friends.
And you said that you and her, right before that clip, you said that you and her friends would talk, and this is something that you learned.
It wasn't from her friends, no, sir.
But in that clip, you said you would talk to her friends, and then you start talking about that, correct?
Objection. This is hearsay.
Well, I'm a little unclear as to what the question is. Why don't you re-ask the question?
The question was, did you say that she got into the car with other people?
And there's
told Detective Anderson that, correct?
My objection is there's no foundation.
Overruled, the witness may answer if she knows.
Yeah, it was not something I personally observed.
I asked you, did you tell that to Detective Anderson?
Objection. It's not relevant. It's not personal knowledge.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Did you tell Detective Anderson in that clip that we listened to that she was experimental?
Yes.
Remember saying that?
Yes.
And that one of the examples you gave was that she got into cars of boys to go to a party that she didn't know.
Yes.
That is what you said, correct?
Yes, sir.
Another question that I asked you before break was in regards to her ADD and her short-term memory. Do you remember me asking you about that?
Yes.
And do you remember reviewing the clip over lunch?
Yes.
And in that clip, you told the detective that her ADD came out in short-term memory loss, correct?
Yes.
And that you wouldn't know it by talking to her that she had issues, but it showed up in her test scores and her short-term memory.
Yes.
All right. Now, I want to go right before lunch. We were talking about, I asked you about the truck. I asked you if there any blood, anything like that in the house, anything like that. And we had kind of got to a point where we stopped. I want to talk to you a little bit about Alyssa. She could be pretty aggressive.
Yes.
That's what you told the detective. She was aggressive.
Yes.
She could be feisty.
Absolutely.
She let people know how she felt.
Yes.
She was pretty strong.
Yes.
She could hold her own.
Yes.
On May 17th, when your dad picked you up from Peanuts, I think is your friend that you called her. Is that her nickname?
Peanut and Melody, they were sisters.
Okay. And did you ever notice any marks on your dad?
No.
Any scratches, bruises, black eyes?
No.
Now, at some point, you found a note, correct?
Yes.
And the county attorney had went through that note with you, correct?
Yes.
Something else that you noted, I think, when you were talking to the detectives was that you said that it was odd that you told the detective that it was odd that her first letter was capitalized in an A. Do you remember telling him that?
Yes.
You said that she never did that, correct?
Yes.
I wonder if they have like some of her old homework or something. That's basically the allegation from the state.
I'm going to show you some letters. You can tell me if you recognize any of the writing or anything like that. I don't want you to tell me what's on them. We're not going to talk about the letters themselves. We're just going to ask you to look at the signature line at the bottom and see if you recognize it.
Okay.
Yes, this is the little sister.
Are you familiar with a
Alyssa.
friend? I think you talked about it by the name of Charity Robinson.
Yes.
That is someone that your sister met while at Barry Goldwater.
I believe that's correct.
And that's your sister went there her freshman and sophomore year?
No, I think just her sophomore year.
Just her sophomore year?
I believe.
You may.
Handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 42. You can flip through those pages. And
It's not 42. 92.
92, sorry. I didn't have my glasses on. Sure, look. I handed you approximately at least 10 letters, correct? And you reviewed them?
Yes.
And all of these, is it a capital A like this one?
It is.
When you saw the note, you immediately recognized it as her handwriting?
Yes.
In the note, she referenced taking some money, correct?
In the note I'm seeing here, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
And your dad was known to have cash in his house?
Yes, some.
Now, there's been a little bit of discussion about finding the note and finding the cell phone. I believe you said that you found the cell phone next to the note, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you remember, as soon as your dad saw the note, he called Alyssa's cell phone?
No, I don't recall that.
And you guys heard the phone ring?
No, the note was right next to the phone.
I'm going to play you another clip. May I approach, Runner?
You may.
So the jury's going to hear this. How's the jury not going to hear this clip unless she has headphones?
It's right there.
And if I was the prosecutor, I'd want to know exactly what's being whispered back and forth up there. Okay, she does have headphones. That's good. He's whispering something about if it's too loud. The whispering bothers me. Okay, this is 20 years ago, okay? 20 years ago, she was, questioned about this. And she's supposed to remember exactly what she said then. My brain, I could not do this. I would be hard-pressed to remember that, that 20 years ago existed, let alone what I did 20 years ago. But every inconsistency that she's recounting now as she's lived this story, and possibly it may have changed over time as she's focused on different factors, is being drawn out and pointed out. It is very intimidating for him standing right there. She's cool. I wonder, Dr. G, with that head tilt, that would be like, oh, that's a shift in what she heard from what she'd like to hear, I think. Cameron got a little...
He's still talking about it a little bit.
Oh, definitely strong lawyer. He's doing a great job.
I think it's done.
Did that help refresh your recollection of that?
And she was 12, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, she said that did help her refresh her recollection, so they are allowed to proceed. He's going to question her about it. I think he's going to admit all these as evidence.
In that conversation with Detective Anderson, which was back in September of 2008, you told him that you heard the phone ring, right? I heard it, you said.
Yes.
Correct? And you said you told him that obviously she wasn't there, and he called her and we heard it, correct?
Yes.
And you saw the fear in your dad's eyes, his concern for Alyssa?
Yes.
And he immediately started calling Alyssa's friends. He called her boyfriend.
I believe so, yeah.
He called family members.
Yes.
And at some point, he called everyone in her phone.
Yeah.
All her friends.
Yes.
He went to Jack in the Box.
That's what I was told.
Right. And finally, he did call police to report her missing later that night, correct?
Yes.
And his attempts to find Alyssa didn't stop that night, did they?
I suppose not, no.
For weeks after she ran away, he would continue to call her friends?
I wasn't there for that.
Co-workers, family members?
Certainly family.
He put up flyers?
Yes.
He was even contacted by Phoenix Police because some of the flyers you guys had put up, they asked you to take down, correct?
That's what he had told me, yes.
That's what you told Detective Anderson, correct?
If it was in that interview, then that's what I told him.
But in that interview with Detective Anderson, you didn't tell him that your dad told you this, did you?
No.
And as time passed, his concern grew that something had happened to Alyssa?
I would say he had that concern that very night.
Okay. He was annoyed and frustrated by the way the Phoenix Police Department was handling the case?
That's what he said.
You didn't see him being annoyed and frustrated?
He was generally annoyed and frustrated.
You were aware that he called detectives to get them to investigate?
Not that I can. No, not that I can recall.
Were you aware he wrote letters to the police chief?
After the fact, yes.
He wrote letters to congressmen?
I believe that's what happened. I've never seen them.
Contacted the FBI?
I believe so. I wasn't witness to these things.
Okay. But you did tell Detective Anderson and other people, and I believe in your podcast too, that Alyssa's runaway and subsequent disappearance consumed your dad's life for years.
Yeah, that's what it appeared.
You told Detective Anderson that he spent large amounts of money in an effort to find her?
Because that's what I believed, yes.
He took trips to California? You talked about that on direct, correct?
At least one.
And he did this over the months after her disappearance?
I believe so.
And he took you on one or two of those trips, you said? One for sure, maybe another one?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was two for sure, but I do remember at least one. There's some pictures.
And you testified on direct that you guys went to the mall, you went to the beach, you did hand out some flyers at the mall?
Yes.
But he also took you to the payphone that the alleged call from Alyssa came, correct?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember telling Detective Anderson that he took you to that payphone and he took pictures of the payphone and the surrounding stores?
I remember pictures of the payphone, so I have to assume that that's what happened. I just don't have a recollection of it.
You don't have a recollection now of telling Detective Anderson that he took you there?
I don't remember half that interview, to be honest, but if that's what I said, then that's what happened.
You told Detective Anderson in subsequent interviews that he drove around in areas where he believed girls had been trafficked to try to find her?
That's what he told me, yes.
You also told Detective Anderson that while you were in California with him, you were in an area that you believed was your Aunt Lynette's house, and he was staking out that area to see if they were hiding her.
Oh, okay, then yes.
Do you remember saying that to Detective?
No, but I believe that was what I believed.
But you told Detective Anderson that that happened while you were on the trip to California with him.
Yes, I was alone in a hotel room for much of that trip, however. He would say that some things he had to do was dangerous and that I could not come with.
But if you told Detective Anderson that you were there in this area, which you thought was weird because you were just hanging out outside some house staking it out, that wouldn't be you in the hotel, correct?
No, correct. If that's what I said, then I'm sure that's what happened.
Her recollections changed a lot.
There's been talk about your dad recording conversations.
Yes.
This has done for years, correct?
Yes, my whole life.
Done before you were born even, correct?
Yes.
He probably did this before Alyssa was born.
Yeah, I believe there are tapes dating back to the 70s.
Okay. He was pretty paranoid?
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you about the recording system in the house. You did have a few questions asked to you about this system. This was on the home phone in the kitchen area, correct?
Yes.
And the line from the wall would connect to the box or the recording system, correct?
I would assume so. I don't know exactly. I'd never set it up myself.
Okay. Did you ever look at it though? You've seen it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it was there.
And it required tapes to be inside for it to record?
Yes.
And it would only record that particular phone, right?
Yes.
And there'd be times that conversations would be happening and the call would end, correct? The recording would end because the tape ended, correct?
Yes.
And then to be able to reset it, you'd have to put a new tape in and re-push to record. It wouldn't automatically do that, correct?
Correct.
The phone in the kitchen wasn't the only phone in the house, was it? Your dad had a landline, same line, but a phone in his bedroom, correct?
He had a cell phone.
But he also had another receiver in his bedroom, correct?
On the wall, but I don't remember a phone. It's possible, but I don't remember.
But if that phone was there and didn't have a recording system, if that phone was answered, it wouldn't record, correct? It only recorded when you picked up that specific receiver in the kitchen.
I'm not quite sure. I don't remember him having a phone in his room.
But you did know that the only way that recording happened is when you picked up that particular receiver in the kitchen, correct?
I'm not sure. I just know when you picked up the home phone, it recorded.
Okay. Now, you're aware that there was a camera system in the house, correct?
Yes.
There was one in the carport looking out to the street?
Looking at the front door, or the door we used to get in the home.
And out towards the street, correct? It was placed in the back corner to see the door entering there, and you could also see under the garage a little bit.
I can't quite recall. I don't think I've seen any video of it, which helps my memory.
Okay. And the other was an event in the living room.
Yes.
That covered the couch and that Arcadia door in the house.
I don't quite remember if it covered the Arcadia door, but for sure the couch.
Okay. Now, you talked about that video recording system on direct, correct?
Yes.
And you said that your dad told you that Sarah was not to know about the camera in the vent. Do you remember saying that?
Alyssa was not to know
Sorry.
about the camera in the vent, yes. I was told not to tell her.
Okay. Thursday was the first time you ever made that statement to anyone, correct?
No.
You never told Detective Anderson that in an interview?
I'm sure I have, and I've certainly said it on many, many podcasts over the years.
You never said it to Detective Anderson. You never said it to Detective Summershoe.
I would have to recall. We had so many communications over the years, it's extremely difficult to tell.
Did you ever tell the county attorneys?
Possibly.
But you knew that Alyssa knew the camera was there, don't you?
Eventually, yeah, she did find out.
She knew it was there for years.
The camera in the vent?
Yes.
It was not there for years, no, sir.
Now, the system had two cameras, correct? The one in the vent and the one in the carport, correct?
That is what I remember, yes.
And that system was held in your dad's room, correct? It was on looked like a VCR or something like that, box, right?
Yes.
And it was connected to a TV, a screen.
Yeah, it was like a TV and a VCR is what I remember.
Yeah. So it ran constantly. The live feed was there.
Yes.
It didn't always record them.
Correct.
But if you went in there and looked at the screen, you could see the two cameras.
No, so there were different settings where it was either one camera, the other, or it could cycle, I believe.
But it would have both, correct? You could look at the system and see both cameras.
Not like on one screen? No, it was either one camera, the other, or it cycled between them.
Yeah, so the cycle would show both cameras at the same time, correct?
If it was set to the cycle, yeah.
And you guys were able to go into your dad's room and look at those cameras, look at the monitor.
I'm sure we had the opportunity, but we weren't really supposed to go in there.
Well, in your interview with Detective Anderson, you said that if you guys heard a noise or if you heard something, you would go in there and monitor the system to see what the camera were showing, correct?
Yeah, if you say I said so, sure.
Well, do you believe you said that? Do you believe that ever happened?
I believe I went into his room, absolutely.
And you knew that she could see it because there was a blinking red light, correct?
No, it was covered.
So if all her friends said they saw a blinking red light, what, you believe that's not true?
I can't attest to what her friend said. I know that he often covered it with electrical tape on most of his cameras.
Now, again, your testimony is that this camera in the living room was set in the vent to spy on Alyssa. But in your interviews with Detective Anderson, you told them that the cameras were put up because someone tried to break into your house while your sister and you were home.
That's what I was told, yes.
Again, that's not what you didn't say. This is what I was told. You told Detective Anderson that the cameras were installed because someone tried to break into the house while me and my sister were there, correct?
Yes, that's what I believed at the time.
That is what you told. I'm not asking you what you believed. That is what you told Detective Anderson. You didn't tell him, I believe, all that. That's all now. This is all 20 years later you're saying believe. Back then you told him this is what happened, correct?
Yes.
Now, going to that recording function, you talked about, again, we talked about how the feed would just be live, where you could monitor it, but it doesn't always record, correct?
Yes.
And to be able to record it, you actually had to go in and press record on the tape, correct?
Yes.
So it wasn't recording constantly.
There had to be a tape in it, but it was recording frequently from what I remember.
But again, you would have to push record to be able to do it.
Yes.
And he would do it typically, when would your dad turn it on?
I believe it was recording at most times.
You told Detective Anderson that it wasn't always recording and that typically he would turn it on if he heard a noise or if he left, or if he felt like recording it because he was nosy.
Yes.
You knew how to start the recorder, correct?
Yeah.
Alyssa knew how to start it?
I'm not sure.
And it would record onto VHS tapes?
Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit about podcast. A statement that your dad had made about coming to his deathbed. Do you remember making that statement?
Yes.
On direct.
Yes.
You didn't tell the jury the complete statement, did you?
I mean, we can play it if you'd like.
Well, he said other things about recording about that confession, correct? That you call a confession, correct?
He also said that he would confess if the state gave him lethal injection within 10 days.
And he also denied 50 times to you over the years that he's not going to confess to something he didn't do, correct?
It's varied throughout the years. Something he says he doesn't remember doing is something he told me.
You said, you just specified it there, that he would get the lethal injection. He actually said,
Love this
if that quote is correct, he actually said, if this is what you want me to do, if it makes you feel happy, correct? Is it going to make you feel better? That's what he said, correct?
No, I don't believe it was phrased like that.
And then he told you that I didn't do anything and I'm not going to confess to anything that I didn't do, correct?
Yes.
And the reason you went there that day was to try to get a confession from him, correct?
There were many reasons I went there that day.
Detective Anderson and Detective Summershoe said that the case wasn't moving and they would need a confession for something to happen, correct?
No, not in those exact words. I believe they also wanted her body.
But they told you couldn't go anywhere without a confession.
I don't recall that specific phrasing.
So you attempted to get a confession, correct?
I attempted to get answers, absolutely.
And he repeatedly told you that the answer is going to be the same. Even if you come to my deathbed, I did not kill your sister. And he was adamant over and over. And he was offended that you believed he did something, correct? That was part of that conversation also, right?
No.
He never told you, I can't believe my own daughter thinks I could do something this heinous?
At the very end, yes, after he taunted me.
But he said that in the conversation in context of this alleged, what you call a confession.
Yes, at the very end.
Wow.
And he repeatedly told you he cannot confess to something he didn't do.
Objection, ask and answer.
Sustained.
Now, when you went to that Starbucks, did you tell him you were recording?
No.
Was it in Florida? What state? Was it a one-party consent?
Now, I want to ask you a few questions about Alyssa's boyfriend, John Lackman. You were aware she was dating him?
Yes.
He had come over to the house a few times?
Yes.
On a number of occasions?
Yeah.
You thought they had I don't know, how would you describe their relationship?
Yeah, good, normal.
Did she ever cheat on him?
It's hard, I don't know if they were together. I don't know what happened between that fight and when she was with Mike Stanley on the couch.
So,
but I would assume, I guess so, yeah. It's
within
like,
a few weeks of her going missing, she was on the couch with another man, correct?
yes, but I don't know if they had broken up because of the fight.
And he was a 20-year-old who was weeks away from turning 21, correct?
I wouldn't know that.
And your sister was 17 at the time, correct?
She was 17.
Counsel, when you say he was 20, we've talked about two he's in the last question.
I agree. I will go back. When I'm talking about Mike Stanley, the individual who works at Jack in the Box, correct? Who was on the couch with Alyssa, was not the boyfriend, correct?
I don't know their relationship status.
John Lackman was the one that she was dating, the one we've seen the video they're fighting, correct? He is around the same age as Alyssa?
Yeah, I think they were the same grade.
Mike Stanley was the older gentleman who worked at Jack in the Box, correct?
Yes.
How would you say that John treated Alyssa?
From what I saw, it was normal. I don't know. I know that they got in that one fight where there was, and what's hard is because I didn't see it. But from what I saw, things seemed normal.
Okay. Do you remember telling Detective Anderson that you thought that John treated Alyssa bad?
That sounds right.
He was a jerk to her.
I don't know if I use that exact word.
He would talk down to Alyssa.
That's what I believed.
You told Detective Anderson that he was violent with her.
I was told that he smashed her finger in a car door. I did not witness that.
But you actually did witness, because you told Detective Anderson that you saw him violently grab her. You remember saying that?
No.
And you told Detective Anderson that she pulled away and that your boyfriend had never pulled you that way, and she was embarrassed. Do you remember saying that?
My boyfriend when I was 12?
Well, you're doing the interview in 2008, and you're referencing back to 2001 when John Lackman violently grabbed. You're describing a violent interaction between Alyssa and John.
I would need my memory refreshed. I don't remember.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
He's got all the stuff to refresh your memory. Okay, this is very. Yes, Weather Watch calls it cat and mouse, right? They're doing a very heated exchange here.
Your Honor, it's just going to take a second to pull out my computer.
He says, Your Honor, this is going to take a second to pull up on the computer. What about that button? Is that red button? Is that like the judge's emergency send all the bailiffs in? Summon the troops? So the button between the two flags? That's my guess. I think it's like an emergency, a panic button or something. Or maybe not. Julie says, well, now my comment doesn't make sense. What was your comment? Let's take a look at it and see if it will... I think you mean the live-action Tom and Jerry show. Yeah, definitely. She has stayed consistent.
When it's finished talking about that, just look up and then let me know if that helps refresh your recollection.
Okay, thank you.
When it's finished, let me know, and I'll ask you if it helped refresh your memory. I think it was what he said. She said, okay. So he's refreshing her recollection. She has said all these help refresh her recollection, even though she says she doesn't have any recollection of it now. She's like, if it happened then, if that's what it was, then it must have happened. There's a magic get out of jail free phrase that she could be using, which is, I hear that, but that doesn't refresh my recollection. So if that's actually the case, and she speaks and says that, it makes all this impeachment material sort of irrelevant. And at least it could. Depends on the judge ruling if they're going to let this in as evidence. Yeah, Sarah Boone will not be present at a pretrial hearing today. She's probably going to write a letter about that. And I haven't seen anything. I'm scanning constantly to see if something happens with Sarah Boone's hearing. This is Judge Wooten, by the way, out of Florida.
I'm not sure this is the clip you meant to play. Oh, okay, they're just getting to it, I think.
Good call, Michelle. Good catch. Defense is doing a great job here. They know all the information from the previous interview, and they're hitting her with every single.
It didn't talk about what you were talking about.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a brief recess. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room in about 5 minutes. Please remember the admonition. You can leave everything in the courtroom. Jury's now excused.
Okay, jury's going to go out. They're going to try to find this this clip, I think, because she says whatever you had me listen to had nothing to do with what you've been asking me. Yes, she wants to be at every one of her hearings. Here's what I think. Her lawyer has power of attorney, right? And maybe we might need Matthew or Nicole to explain this, but power of attorney is the power of the attorney to make a decision on your behalf. And they can do this for a lot of things. There are some things you cannot push off, like the decision to testify in your own defense. The attorney cannot make that decision for you. But I think the attorney can make the decision whether or not you be present or not in court, or whether they waive your right to be present in court. So I may be wrong there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the attorney is waiving her right to be present in court. Because she wants to be there. She wants every moment she can to be involved. Let's see if we just got a... So we're waiting through this. Just one moment. I want to make sure they're not going to do any business. Hey, Queen Olive, thanks for joining us while you wait for the Border Patrol trial. Sarah Boone's going to be furious. New letter incoming.
Sure.
Saul.
That's a different one than she put the wrong one on there. So I need to get that. It's on here.
It's a little bit of a hot mic. They're still trying to find the proper video for impeachment. Thal says, I've been playing a different version of WoW. WoW is called World of Warcraft. It's the game I was addicted to. Hardcore classic. Hardcore means you can only die once and then your game is over. There are bodies everywhere. LOL. It's really something interesting. Thal, you can't talk to me about that. That's my weakness. But it does sound quite interesting. The classic game was the best. I think when it first started, was the best. In California, the client defendant has the right to be there. They actually have to sign a waiver to not appear. Thank you, Tish, for that. I wonder how it's different here in, let's see, where are we? Arizona.
So I think we're going to have to see if you have it. See if we can get it to play on yours or mine.
We're here for Sarah Boone. We're all here for Sarah Boone. We're waiting. It appears that Sarah Boone will not be here. So we're waiting. She is not going to be present in court from what we've heard through the grapevine of Court TV. So now we're just waiting on the decisions that are going to be made in this hearing that she will not be present for.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one right now.
Okay, pretrial conference.
That one I guarantee is not. Yeah, that would try that one to see if it plays better. Let me see this. Oh yeah, I got it. I saw it. Boom. That's exactly where it was.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Stokes, tell me about your last case.
Sorry, I'm listening in on some other stuff. Waiting for them to... I want to fast forward through this, but I don't know how long it's going to take. Half listening. What happened with Sarah Boone? Baby Bear, it's my understanding that nothing has happened yet with Sarah Boone. Something today, there will be a hearing where the judge is just going to find out if everything's ready to go for the July 24th start date for trial. And all we need is the yes or no. There might be a little bit of extra material that's offered there, but all we've heard is that Sarah Boone will not be present for that. So we'll see. I will tell you this: there's a feed available, but it's not one that I can use. It looks to be out of Judge Wooten's courtroom, and it's a very small channel that may have their own camera in the courtroom, and this is not one that I would be able to share through Media Pool. And the channel is Alternate Jurors. They have 139 subscribers. I was the 139th, by the way. Yes, Sarah Boone still has an elderly attorney. Ritz, I was saying, I think there's another letter. I hope not another continuance. It's continued since, August, October. I forget when it was originally scheduled. But it's been a long series of continuances. I think it's time. It's finally time. It's been 3.5 years almost. See, Florida rule has the presence of defendant. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see, it was 3.1. 0.180. Let's see, in all prosecutions for crime, the defendant must be present at first appearance when a plea is made, unless a written plea is not guilty has been made in writing under the provisions of Rule 3.17a. At any pretrial conference, unless the defendant's presence is waived in writing or on the record by the defendant's counsel with the defendant's consent. So if we stop right there at 3.18 A3, this is a pretrial conference. The defendant must have waived in writing or on the record by the defendant or the defendant's counsel with the defendant's consent. So if the lawyer has waived her appearance at the hearing.
Please be seated.
Let's go back here. Let's cut to this guy right here. We're back in court.
We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Mr. Jackson, you may resume your cross-examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Right before the break there, I had some issues with the recording. I was able to play you during the break the recording that I was asking you about. Did that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, thank you.
And that was in an interview or a conversation, recorded conversation you had with Detective Anderson in January of 2009. And you told Detective Anderson that he was violent with her, correct?
I believe it was Summershoe, but yes.
Summershoe, okay. And you told him that he was violent with her?
Yes.
He would grab her violently?
Yeah, by the wrist, I believe is what I said.
And she pulled away.
Yes.
She looked embarrassed.
Yes.
You were concerned because she had bruises at some point.
Yes, she did have bruises.
And one time was on her cheek, another on her body somewhere.
I believe it was the hand incident I was referring to earlier, and then yes, in that recording I said that she had a bruise on her face.
And that concerned you?
Of course.
So that's a little bit different than when you told us that everything seemed fine, correct?
Yeah, I did not remember that.
Now I want to ask you another question that you were asked in the December 11th, 2008 interview. You were aware that Alyssa had threatened to call CPS on your dad if he didn't allow her to do certain things, correct?
I was aware that she had threatened to call CPS, or I was told that.
You told Detective Anderson that you had overheard those things.
I'd overheard conversations, yeah.
Okay. You knew that she wanted to get tattoos?
Yeah.
Tongue piercings?
Yes.
She thought you and your dad were boring?
I believe she'd said that before, yeah.
And your dad wouldn't let her get tongue piercings or tattoos until she turned 18, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hold tight for just 1 second.
Now,
Ready?
I want to ask you a question.
We're going to pause that. Let me tell you this. The only feed I can find from the courtroom for Sarah Boone is alternate jurors on YouTube. This is not a feed that I can use. I don't feel safe using this feed from my channel personally, but I would like to refer to, for those people who want this, if I'm not able to find a feed, I'd like you guys to at least watch it and we can talk about it together. So let me give this out. Alternate Jurors, this channel on YouTube, they only have 139 subscribers. First of all, jump over there and subscribe. I don't know where she's getting her feed from. It might be her herself in trial. It might be something else. Either way, let's. I want you guys to see it, and we can talk about it later, even if I can't live stream it directly because I'm not finding any other feed. But there is some action from the courtroom. You might want to have it up in another window if you have a second device. But when you do pop over there, just give them a hello. Thank you, Weatherwatch, for this. There's a link. Tell them that you're from us and that we, are respecting them and are excited for the updates and where you're from. Give them a subscribe. That would be awesome. But it looks right now that so far, I know we're not going to see Sarah Boone, but it looks like we're not going to be able to see the live stream and something that I can use. So I wanted to give that out there. I'll keep looking. There might be another feed that is available, and that gets all tricky in how I determine that. Anyway, thank you very much. Go show them some love. We appreciate them sharing that with us. And we're going to continue the video here as we're waiting for action in that court.
About a pretrial interview. Were you asked to do a pretrial interview in this case?
With the state?
With the defense. We requested to do an interview with you.
Oh, yes.
And you turned us down, correct?
Correct.
Now, I have one more question. I believe you testified on direct about some jewelry that Alyssa had that was your mother's.
Yes.
A set of jewelry, correct?
There were a few pieces, yeah.
Do you remember that question you were asked?
Yeah.
And you said that, I want to say that you said it was odd that she left that behind.
Yeah.
Because that was something from your mother, correct?
Yes.
It was odd to you. You believe she would have taken that.
Yeah.
But in 2008, you were asked by Detective Anderson about anything she might have left behind, if she had any heirlooms or anything she cherished. Do you remember Detective Anderson asking you that question?
I not remember, but if you say so, I believe so.
And you told Detective Anderson that she had a set of your mother's jewelry, but unfortunately it was stolen by your cousin David, who had come and lived with you guys. And it was stolen a couple years before she left. Do you remember telling him that?
If I said that, then sure.
Would you like to listen to refresh your recollection?
No, I believe you.
Did you say that then?
Yes.
So that's different than what you said on direct, correct? You said that these heirlooms, she left, and that was odd to you, correct? But in an interview in 2008, you told Detective Anderson that those heirlooms were stolen, correct?
Ask and answer.
Sustained.
She didn't answer the question. She still hasn't adopted that saying. She said, if it's said. So I'm asking her, did she say that?
You asked her if that was yes, and she said yes.
You're admitting that you said that to Detective Anderson.
Objection, ask and answer.
Sustained.
So are you lying now or are you lying then?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Can't do that.
They both can't be true, correct?
Objection,
What is the objection?
argumentative.
Sustained.
Where's this jewelry now? Do you have it?
I'm not sure.
Well, if it's your mother's jewelry and your sister left it behind, that would mean you have it, correct?
I'm wearing my mother's ring right now, sir.
One of them. What about the ones that were stolen? by David.
I didn't see David steal anything.
Your Honor, I would like to
That's
have a
the
refresher
confusion.
recollection on this, please.
You may.
Okay. He's bringing it together. He's laid the trap, he's laid the foundation, and he's trying to catch her here. And I realize half of me is like, she was 12, right? And this was 20 years ago. And the other half of me is saying this is very good defense work by an attorney. Appreciate everyone popping over there to show some love to alternate jurors. A brand new channel, it looks like. Let me know as we get closer. You have to split your attention. She had like 130. I think I was the 139th subscriber. He's not mean he's doing his job. I have to see that. He has to point out these. He has to get to the point, right? He has to say, look, you can't have this and this both be true. One means the other is not. They're mutually exclusive. You can't say both. Which one is true? And they've objected several times because he's basically said which one is a lie. That's argumentative. You can't do that. Are you lying now? Or are you lying then? You can't ask that. And those have been sustained. And he's tried to ask that same question a couple different ways. He's getting the point into the jury, even though their objections is being sustained. That they know she's lying. That one of them is wrong. So as mean as this is, as harsh, as brutal as it is, and it seems a little unnecessary to the extent he's going to sometimes, but he's accomplishing his goal, which is we have a witness who is saying something today that is different from what she said 20 years ago. Lol. Sounds great.
Can you rewind it? Because I think it just was briefly mentioned at the beginning.
She was 12, 20 years ago. Right. She's an adult now. Okay. So, I mean, it's her, she's able to handle herself, and she has. She's done a great job. Sarah is doing great on the stand. She has not lost her composure at all. She's even got jabs in, very, very subtle jabs. That's what he told me type things, just to rephrase the direction or re-aim the focus.
I just can't make out what I'm saying. It didn't restart.
We might have another break coming up. For those that are jumping in a little bit late, we are watching for Sarah Boone's hearing to come up in Judge Wooten's trial in his court. We have heard that Sarah Boone will not be there.
I just can't. I mumble so bad I can't make out one part is all. But I hear what you're saying about the set.
Yeah, there are other things before Sarah Boone's case. Court TV is just waiting. Right.
So you were able to listen to a portion of that recording with Detective Anderson, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that in that recording he asked you specifically about any heirlooms that Alyssa may have had?
Yes. And
you mentioned a set that Alyssa had, correct?
Yes.
And that it was stolen, correct?
That was the part I couldn't make out, but that's what it seems like I was saying, yes.
Now, that question, after listening to it, was asking about heirlooms, correct?
Yes.
At any point in that interview, did it say, I really thought it was weird she didn't take these heirlooms of my mom's? Did you ever say that to Detective Anderson?
I'm in the entire interview? I'm not sure, sir.
Did you say it in that part of the quote that I just asked you? Did you bring up at all that it was odd that she left
letter to the
a family
court?
heirloom behind? Because that's when he specifically asked you about the heirloom, correct?
Yeah.
And then that statement was not given, was it?
No, it was not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Imbordino, any redirect?
Okay, the letter has not been filed yet, if there's another letter. Still not enough money for an expert. Sarah is writing the judge again. Okay, we're not. I can't stream that channel. All I can say is that you can go to alternate jurors right now and watch as it's happening on alternate jurors is streaming this. It looks like a Zoom conference, but we're watching from in the courtroom. And so the judge is present.
I think I heard you say a little earlier when Mr. Jackson was asking you questions that you had said to one of the detectives, and I don't recall whether it was Anderson or Summershoe, but that Alyssa was jealous that you were left alone.
Yes.
So let's assume you said that. What did you mean by that?
Well, we were jealous of each other. She was jealous that I had no supervision. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted, and I was jealous that she got to spend so much time with our father.
Okay. Now, on a number of occasions in response to his questions, you said that's what you believed. Did you mean that's what you believed at the time?
Yes.
And so, for example, I think he asked you, did you say that Alyssa made poor choices? And I think you said you believed she made poor choices. What was that belief based upon?
My father's statements about how bad she was.
You said that you believed that she had behavior issues. You were under that impression. Well, what did you mean? You believed it?
That I had to reconcile these memories I have from before and now. And yeah, that's what I believed at the time, that she was out of control and wild. But as I got older and did honestly a lot worse stuff than Alyssa, I realized that she was not out of control or wild.
Now, are you a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist?
No.
So are you able to diagnose mental health problems?
No.
So when you said to one of the detectives, if you said that Alyssa had been diagnosed with ADHD, you didn't mean to say you diagnosed her, correct?
Correct.
Were you ever present when any physician diagnosed her?
No.
So what made you believe that she'd been diagnosed as with ADHD?
My father told me that.
Okay, the Boone hearing is over. She was not there. The new hearing has been set for the 21st. They are having trouble finding an expert witness to testify. So the 21st is Friday, the day before court's supposed to begin. It looks like they're trying to still keep that date. There supposedly is a new letter to the judge, which has not been filed yet. We're going to watch for that.
When Mr. Jackson said, isn't it true that that camera was in the vent for years? And I think you said, no, it wasn't in the vent for years. Was that your answer?
Yes, I believe that was
So
about it.
could it have been in the vent in that house for years, given the fact that you hadn't lived there for years?
No.
Did you say that, or in one of those interviews with detectives, either Anderson or Summershoe, you had made the statement that one of the times that your father would turn on the recorder for the surveillance cameras was when he left? Did you mean when he left the house?
Yes.
So if he wasn't there,
Yes.
he would have turned it on.
Yes.
So do I understand you to say that your testimony is that Alyssa, your father had rules for Alyssa that he didn't have for you?
Correct.
What were some of the rules that he had for Alyssa that he didn't have for you?
Objection, outside the scope of cross. I didn't ask her about rules.
Overruled, but I'll give you recross on that if you'd like.
I'm sorry, can you state the question one more time?
Yeah, you said that, I thought you said, and maybe I'm mistaken, you said that you had more freedom than Alyssa.
Yes.
So when you said more freedom, were there rules that she had that you didn't have, or vice versa?
Yes.
And what were some of those?
I mean, I could basically come and go as I wanted. I didn't really have to check in. I mean, I'm sure if I didn't show up at night, I would have been in trouble, but I was allowed to go and do whatever I wanted, basically.
How many coughs have I missed here? Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. We're watching for that new letter. I'm literally refreshing every 3 seconds, trying to catch that.
I also didn't have to go to school.
So Alyssa had to go to school and she didn't.
Did either Detective Anderson or Detective Summershoe ask you to get a confession from the defendant?
No.
I think I heard you say on cross-examination that you just wanted to find answers.
Yes.
Answers to what?
To what happened to Alyssa?
Had you tried to get those answers on other occasions from your father?
Yes.
And had he ever provided you any answers?
No.
Mr. Jackson asked you, isn't it true that you told detectives, and I want to make sure that we're clear on when some of these interviews occurred that you've been listening to portions of. So, for example, were you interviewed like 2008, 2009?
Yes.
The ones you've been listening to, is that when those occurred?
Yes.
So has your memory of things changed over the years?
Yeah, I think I can see things more clearly now as an adult.
He asked you, did you tell detectives that you went to California one time, or when you went with with the defendant, your father, and I don't know if this was my word or his word, staked out Lynette's house? I wasn't clear. Do you remember sitting outside of Aunt Lynette's house?
No.
Well, so you're not saying it didn't happen?
Yeah, correct. It could have happened. I just don't remember.
Is that something your father told you that he did?
Objection Foundation, she said she doesn't have any recollection of it, apparently.
Overruled, the witness may answer if the defendant told her that that's what he did.
He did say that part of his looking for Alyssa was investigating our aunts.
Well, had you ever been with him when he was watching Alyssa?
Yes.
Like where, for example?
Objection outside the scope of cross.
Overruled, but I'll give you recross on that if you'd like.
I had gone with him to watch Alyssa at Jack in the Box, as well as when she stayed at our brother's apartment.
So had she stayed with, you said her brothers or your brothers, when did that happen?
That was, gosh, I'm trying to remember the timeline now. That was the year before, the summer before.
Summer of 2000?
Yes.
She had spent some time with some of your brothers?
Yes.
Which ones?
Mike and John.
Now, Mr. Jackson asked you, is it true that they requested to interview you before trial, correct? And I think you said they did, and you declined.
Yes, correct.
Had you been advised that you had a right to decline that interview?
Yes.
Under law?
Yes.
You may.
Can I see that before he does it?
I will show it to you before I show it to anybody else.
That's not how rules.
What? Defense just said, can I see that before you show the witness? And he's supposed to show it. And he's like, I'll show you after. He's like, that's not how the rules go. We're in Arizona. And our good...
Mr. Jackson, I believe, asked you...
He hasn't shown him.
And these may not be his exact words. Is it true that it appeared when you walked into Alyssa's room that it was in proper order, nothing out of place?
Yeah, just the backpack stuff, or what I thought was the stuff from her backpack on the ground.
Did she normally keep her room clean and tidy?
Yes.
Did it appear clean and tidy to you?
Besides that one area, yes.
Now, the jewelry. Let's assume that you said in an interview that you believed that an uncle had taken some of the jewelry.
Yeah, our cousin, yeah.
I'm sorry, cousin. I mean, is that something you saw happen?
No.
So why did you believe it?
It's my father.
Objection relevance. Calls for hearsay.
Sustained. Sustain this one.
Can I hear the question again, counsel?
Yeah, let me rephrase it. Did you tell the detectives in an interview that you believed your cousin had taken some of that jewelry?
Yes.
Why did you believe that?
Because that's what I was told.
By whom?
My father.
Was there still some of that jewelry there let's assume some was taken. Was there still jewelry left that was important to Alyssa?
Yeah, I'm wearing some now.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Imbordino. Mr. Jackson, did you want recross on the rules that the defendant had for Alyssa that he did not have for Sarah?
Yes, Your Honor. Briefly.
I'd like to see whatever you showed the witness.
When you're referring to these rules, back in 2001, you were 12 years old, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't do a lot, correct? Stayed home mostly.
Before Alyssa went missing, yes.
You were the sensible one back then, correct? That's what you told Detective Anderson?
Yes.
So the rules, when you're talking about the rules changing, you're saying the rules changed for you when you were 16 and 17 years old, not when you were 12. Because you didn't leave the house. That's what you told Detective Anderson, correct?
That's what I told Detective Anderson, but no, the rules were different, sir.
Okay. You said that you were a bad kid. You were doing all sorts of crazy things back then. That's what you told this jury. You did way worse things than Alyssa. You told this jury that, correct?
We're talking about two separate times.
Okay. So back in 2012, you weren't doing things worse than Alyssa, were you?
In 2012, I was.
I'm sorry, 2001, when you were 12.
Before Alyssa left? I mean, no.
No.
Okay, let me pause here just for a second while we go here. Let's first of all, this cross is very interesting. The back and forth, the lawyers are already showing a little bit of hostility to each other, which is interesting. Let's stop. Sarah Boone, the hearing was very brief and basically got postponed, but there was some information that was shared. First of all, Sarah Boone was not there. Thanks to everybody who went over and rated alternate jurors live stream for that. It was very quick. The lawyer basically said, we're having trouble finding an expert witness to testify. We found one, but we have to pay her more. She's basically holding the report ransom. We have to pay her more or we can't get the answers. So Sarah Boone will be present at a new hearing that's been scheduled for the 21st. That's Friday, literally the work day before the trial is supposed to begin. So it looks like the judge is trying to hold this together and keep the 24th as a real date. We also have heard that there is a new letter that Sarah Boone has written to the judge, and we talked about that this morning. I was saying, what are the chances she's written another letter? It's pretty high. She likes to do it on anniversaries. It's been a month since the last letter, so we're waiting for that. It has not been posted yet. I'm watching the Orange County Clerk records, and as soon as that pops up, we're going to interrupt and take it. Anyway, thank you for everybody who rated the channel over there. And Alternate Jurors it's a fairly young channel it had 138 subscribers, and I think there were 13 people when we started, and we got them up to about 250 subscribers, and so we'll keep an eye on them. I'd love to actually collaborate sometime. Alternate Jurors, we'll have to talk and see if there's somewhere where we meet in the middle that would be beneficial for both people. Anyway, especially as we have Boone coming up, we have a common interest in Boone, so that might be a possibility. Let's see. Anyway, that's what's happened. Did I miss anything about the ruling? About Sarah Boone, for those that were looking for that. Basically, she wasn't there. The hearing has been. You'll be back on the 21st, so a week from Friday, and then hopefully this is good. Now in this case we're watching right now, this lawyer is in attack mode. He really is. He sees an opening. He's trying to sink his teeth in. We're going to see if this works at discrediting Sarah, a different Sarah Turney, in this trial. So we'll jump back to there. Thank you very much for the brief interlude. Let's see. Let me hit play.
And then, Mr. Jackson, did you want cross on examples of the defendant watching Alyssa?
No, it's fine. Go.
All right. Any redirect? No. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, any members of the jury have any questions for the witness? We have a few.
The jury has some questions. We love this. These are the first juror questions we've had in this trial that I believe. The first witness, they did not have any questions. This is our second witness in the trial. The last trial we watched that had jury questions was out of Colorado. And
Counsel, please approach off the record. You'll come up the ramp behind the witness.
Please tell me that's not a juror. Please tell me that's not a juror that's delivering those. What do you think the bailiff is sitting on his butt? Was that a juror that just walked up there on the camera behind the witness? Oh, my goodness. No, okay, so that was not. That looks like it was a court worker. That was a clerk. Oh, my goodness. Like, oh, not again, right? Not again. A sense of relief. So there's our best shot of the defendant so far. The defendant's actually, he filed a motion asking for cameras to be excluded from the courtroom. Did not want it at all. The copyright holder, the media pool representative is ABC 2020, which is the same company that did this special on him like 15 years ago. The Dateline, it's the same television station, the same channel, the same company has the rights to air this, or is the camera, sorry, they're the in-camera courtroom, in courtroom camera for this trial, as did the big special that really got this on everyone's
Turney,
radar.
I've got a couple of questions from the jury. The first question is, could you describe your father? What was his job, girlfriends, other friends? Did he belong to clubs? Was he active at church?
Sure. My father did not have a job since I was 6 years old. He went on disability after that. He had maybe one or two friends I can recall our entire life. At one point, he did date Alyssa's teacher, but shortly after an incident, she was not in our lives anymore, and he never dated again to at least brought anybody around. No clubs, no church, no organizations. He was mostly just at home with me.
And there's video cameras.
You described Alyssa as kind, outgoing, and brave. Why did you describe your sister as brave?
Because she was really brave. I didn't realize how brave she was. She was brave enough to stay. Alyssa was never afraid of anything. She taught me to be brave. Like when I was afraid of stuff in my closet, she would tell me to open it up and scream at it so that I would scare it back. So that's why I would describe Alyssa as brave.
Mr. Jackson, any follow-up questions from the defense to the jury questions?
Yes, just briefly about, you said your dad was injured on the job, or he had a job and then he got injured. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then he was collecting disability because of that injury?
Yes.
You hurt his knee or something?
That's what I know now. That's not what I was told then.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions from the state?
Oh.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may return to the back of the courtroom, and the state may call its next witness. And I believe this witness has asked not to be have her face shown by the media.
Okay, so
Is that correct? All right, so it's ordered that the media not show this witness's face.
So we're going to look at the seal.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Go up, go up, go up. Go up, go up, go up.
If you'll please come forward towards me, right this way. The woman that's standing to my left is going to get your name from you, and then she's going to swear you in.
Sandra Yevseychuk. Sandra, S-A-N-D-R-A.
Jury is allowed to take
Last
notes
name
on
is
this one
E,
and ask
V
questions.
as in
It's the best of both worlds.
S-E-I-C-H-I-K. Sorry. I do.
And ma'am, if you could please take a walk up that ramp and then have a seat on the witness stand here to my right.
So as she goes over there, we're going to go over here, and we're going to watch the
a little
attorney.
microphone there, if you'll just make sure that you're speaking into that. Thank you. Mr. Bailey, you may proceed with direct examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
Hey, Judge, would you please introduce yourself to the jury, ma'am?
My name is Sandra Yevseychuk.
All right, and where do you currently work?
Sprouts Farmers Market.
All right, and do you live locally?
I'm in Glendale.
Okay. And, do you remember a time when you worked at Jack in the Box?
Yes.
And were you a manager at that time?
I was first assistant manager.
Okay, when was that?
I worked for them a long time, but at that, it was like from 99 to 2003, I believe.
All right, so you were you working with them back in 2001?
Yes.
And did you work at multiple Jack in the Boxes during your career there?
Yes.
And was there one in particular that you were working at in May of 2001?
Yeah, on 40th Street in Bell.
Okay. And was that in Paradise Valley?
Yes.
All right. Did you manage an employee at various times by the name of Alyssa Turney?
Yes.
And do you remember her?
Yes.
All right. And did you do a police interview about this back in 2008?
Yes.
And did you do a defense interview as well?
I don't know if that was in 2008, but I have, yeah.
So sometimes lawyers ask terrible questions, even though we think we don't. At some point, did you do a defense interview?
Yes.
Okay. How did you know Alyssa from your time at Jack in the Box?
She was one of my employees.
All right. And so were you able to observe her at work?
Yes.
And were part of your duties to manage her and monitor her work responsibilities.
Yes.
How was she as an employee?
She was a great employee.
How long approximately were you there supervising Alyssa?
Probably about 6 months.
All right. And do you remember what Alyssa's hours approximately were during that time?
It would probably after school, so between 2 and 3 till probably 9 or 10 at night.
All right. And do you recall if she was under 18 at that time?
I believe so.
Were there restrictions on when individuals who were under 18 could work their hours?
They couldn't work past 10.
Okay. You said she was a great employee.
She was. I managed many teenagers, and she was one of the better ones.
Why do you say that?
You didn't have to give her a lot of direction. She, would know what to do once she learned, and she was real friendly with our customers and the other employees. And
did she create any problems for you or other employees while she was at work?
No.
What hours were you working during that time?
Normally I worked 9 p.m. till 6 a.m., but I did do some 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. shifts.
Okay.
It kind of varied.
And had a pinch hit at various times?
Yes.
Right. Did you observe any drug issues with her?
No.
Okay. And did you know if she had a boyfriend?
I honestly don't remember if she did or not.
All right. Do you remember, did you meet any of her family?
I met her father.
And how did you meet her father?
He would come up to the restaurant while she was working, and she had introduced us.
Okay. Do you recall if her father would also watch her from the parking lot?
Yeah.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yeah, there was times that he would be in the parking lot while she was on shift.
Okay. At some point, did Alyssa not show up for a shift?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I called to see if maybe she was just running late, or something was sick and had forgot to call in. Or
okay. And what response were you given?
That Mr. Turney had just got home and her backpack was missing, and there was a note saying she had ran away.
Okay. And do you recall if this was in May of 2001?
It sounds about the right time period, yeah.
And based on your recollection, can you remember a date?
No, not an exact date, no.
Do you remember a possible day of the week?
Honestly, I don't.
It's fine. Did you know some of the other employees that Alyssa worked with?
Yes.
Was one of those employees named Chris Ridnour?
Yes.
Was another employee named Mike Stanley?
Yes.
And you supervise those individuals?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you received your wages from Jack in the Box? How you were paid?
We were paid by paycheck every 2 weeks.
Okay, and what was that process? Was it by check only?
Yes. Yeah, they would come in on Fridays, but payday was actually on Saturday.
All right, and if an employee wanted money from their check, was that something that Jack in the Box would assist them with?
No.
So an employee would have to go to a bank or find some other means to get the money?
Correct.
So this witness is asked to have her face not shown. So
you said that the paychecks come in on Friday?
Yes, they came in through UPS on Fridays, and then we would distribute them on Saturdays.
Okay, so Jack in the Box received them on Fridays, these checks on Fridays?
Correct.
And then they would be distributed to employees on Saturday?
Correct.
And as part of management, did you have the ability to have their checks on that Friday?
We weren't supposed to. On occasion, the store manager would say if somebody had a situation and they needed their check to go ahead and give it to them, but they weren't dated till the Saturday, so getting them cashed was, I don't know if they would be able to do that. But
okay.
Yeah, you can do that. Thanks, Ivan. Tell Brandy hello as well.
And did Alyssa ever come to collect another check after she missed that shift?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And I guess in that same vein, did you ever see Alyssa again?
No.
After she failed to show up for that shift?
No.
No additional questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Any cross-examination from the defense?
Probably not much on the way of cross here. This witness really doesn't have a lot of information that could help the defendant unless there was an interaction between the defense and her. It's funny because some courts, as soon as there's a pause like this, the judge is like, all right, we're moving on. And, you know, if you're not ready to go right now, we're moving on. And this one allows for some fairly lengthy discussions and pauses, even without requesting, you know, the judge's permission to pause.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
So, ma'am, as you're aware, Alyssa went missing in 2001.
Yes.
And you were her supervisor at the time. We've established that.
Yes.
But the police actually never came to talk to you in 2001. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The first time you remember speaking with the police was in 2008.
Correct.
7 years after Alyssa had disappeared.
Correct.
So there are some things that you don't remember, and that's understandable. And during the defense interview, we had discussed possibly a letter that you may have written.
They had mentioned something about a letter that was written, yes.
And we have a copy of that. Would it help if I gave you a copy of that to refresh your recollection?
Maybe so, yeah.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay, we're keeping an eye out for that letter from Sarah Boone, the latest letter to the judge. We're going to pick that up today as well.
You may.
So for the record, I'm showing the witness states Exhibit 72.
Did somebody just toot?
I honestly don't recall. Yes.
If she doesn't recall, the letter doesn't help. They can't question her on it, right? Yeah. It wasn't on my side, I'm telling you. I promise. Pinky promise. Oh, no, it was not me. We need a 2 counter. We're up to 1, but... Whoever it was, they have a microphone right there.
I was just showing it to you. I showed it to her. Yep.
So that's the proper thing
Ma'am,
to
I
do.
just
She
showed you
shows
a
the
letter,
prosecution.
and you had indicated that you had no independent recollection of it.
Right, I honestly don't.
Does it look like your handwriting?
It does look like my handwriting,
Okay.
yes.
So, ma'am, I mean, is it fair to say that if it's your handwriting, you probably wrote it?
More than likely, yes.
I mean, your name is on the page of it, right?
Right.
And then on the back, it says that it's for Alyssa's dad. The letter. Did you remember seeing that on the back?
Oh, I didn't, but yeah.
Would you like to see it again?
No, that's fine.
And in this writing, there's a description of a male with blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, I'm sorry.
5'10".
Yes.
Both arms completely tattooed.
Yes.
Large holes in ears.
Yes.
Now, when you worked at the Jack in the Box, there were a lot of customers who came in.
Yes.
You don't remember all of them.
No.
But at the time, you remembered this customer.
Apparently I did, yes.
And you gave this description to Mike Turney, Alyssa's father.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
There must have been a reason that you gave him this description.
Yeah, I mean, there must have been. I just don't recall.
Possibly a connection to Alyssa.
Possibly, yeah.
And you don't have an independent memory of this note now.
I do not, honestly.
Which makes sense. This is over 20 years later.
How can they continue this line of questioning?
And you didn't have a memory of it during the police interview in 2008.
No, I did not.
But the first time you spoke with the police was 7.5 years after Alyssa's disappearance.
Correct.
And you only knew Alyssa for 6 months.
Correct.
Only in a work capacity.
Correct.
You weren't particularly close to her.
No.
So it's understandable that you might not remember 10, 20 years later.
Correct.
Ma'am, I want to turn now to what you do remember about Alyssa. Okay. You testified that Alyssa worked part-time.
Correct.
Still in high school.
Correct.
She worked at Jack in the Box for about 6 months.
Correct. Yes.
She worked the second shift starting in the afternoon.
Correct.
And you worked the night shift.
Most of the time, yes.
Because of the laws and because of her age, she usually didn't get off work later than 9 or 10 p.m.
That's correct.
Okay. But she would work the afternoon to evening shift.
Correct.
So sometimes she would get out when it was dark outside.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you had testified on direct that you had witnessed Mike, Alyssa's dad, in the parking lot.
Correct.
Is it possible that he was in the parking lot to pick her up?
Correct, if it's possible.
Now, Alyssa was much younger than you.
Yes.
So you had mentioned that your conversations were a little bit more surface level.
Correct.
And you didn't really remember much about what you had talked about with Alyssa?
No, not too much. Normal. I was the mother of 4 teenagers at the time, so it was teenager stuff.
Right. But you do remember her mentioning California?
Yes, she had mentioned California.
She was saving her money?
Yes.
So just a few more questions. You've met Mike, Mr. Turney.
I have.
He would come into the restaurant sometimes when Alyssa was working?
Absolutely.
You told the police that he would come in and talk to us all the time?
Yes.
Okay. And you're referring to us as other employees?
Yes.
Okay. He would order something to drink?
Yes.
And there's also other people who would occasionally stop in to see Alyssa?
I'm sure there was, yeah.
Well, you'd mentioned it to the police that there was...
I heard some of her friends from school, because their school was just right there, and they would stop by.
And you had mentioned to the police that there was a guy who would occasionally stop by the restaurant to see Alyssa?
Probably did, I'm trying to remember.
And it's okay. I know it's been a long time, so if you don't have a memory of that now, that's okay. But if that's something you told the police...
Yeah, I'm sure there was, she had male and female friends that would come by and, see her. And I'm sure there was some that were regular that, I'd seen more than once.
Sure. I'm referring to somebody in the interview that you said that there was a guy who would come in to the restaurant, and that guy stood out to you.
I can't place him offhand, but that's very possible, yes.
Now, after Alyssa went missing, Mike stopped by the Jack in the Box.
Yes.
It was about a day or two later.
Probably a day or two, yeah.
Okay. Mike was looking for information about Alyssa.
Yes.
And no one had any information about where she had gone.
No.
Okay. And he actually came in several times after that.
Yes.
Looking for her.
Yes.
So in those first few weeks, you heard from Mike.
Yes.
But you didn't hear from the police.
No.
And ma'am, you testified on direct about a man named Mike Stanley.
Yes.
Are you, and he was the, one of the other shift managers, right?
Correct.
Okay. And he worked the night shift?
Yes.
So he had to be over 18?
Yes. I believe so.
Okay. Are you aware of how old he was?
I'm not offhand, no, probably. Like, if he was working at nights, he was over 18, but I'm not sure.
All right. All right, just a moment, Your Honor.
That may be done. This is going to be a quick witness. We were trying to catch up. This was yesterday afternoon, and it went to like 7:30 Eastern time. So we're trying to catch up on yesterday afternoon's trial before we start live with today's trial. So we're a little behind, and at the same time, I'm keeping my eye peeled. They're just updating right now. They're updating the Sarah Boone case file with the minutes from today, with the parties to schedule status hearing with judicial assistant today.
Yeah, I mean, I know this was a long time ago, but do you remember any conversations or any issues that came up between Alyssa and Mike Stanley?
No, I'm not aware of any, no.
Okay, all right, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Mr. Bailey, any redirect?
Thank you, Judge. Do you remember anyone concerning coming, when you were managing Alyssa, anyone concerning that came to visit Alyssa?
No.
And if there was a customer that was concerned to you
Every customer
about their
is concerning
treatment
to a fast food
or what they were
restaurant.
doing with an employee, is that something that you would have reported?
Oh, absolutely.
Judge, that's all the questions I'll ask.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Ladies and gentlemen, any members of the jury have any questions for this witness? It appears that there are none. May the witness be excused.
Okay, so
Any
we're gonna
objection?
pan up.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be excused.
We're going to let her walk by without showing her face.
Ladies and gentlemen, this
That
is
was
probably
her
a good
request.
time for our afternoon break. It's 3:15 now. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room at 3:25. That's 10 minutes from now. You can leave everything in the courtroom if you'd like. Please remember the admonition. The jury is now excused.
Weather Watch, do you have the link to the alternative juror YouTube page? Do they want to go back and watch the live stream on Sarah Boone? I think Weather Watch had it before, so let's see. Or any of the other mods, if you've got that, that would be great. Boone trial was not delayed. There's another hearing. The judges ordered them to schedule a hearing within a week.
Let the record show the presence of counsel and the defendant. Jury is not present. We did have 2 juror questions during that session. that I've numbered as 1 and 2 and will file with the clerk. Neither side had any objection to either of the questions, and they were read in their entirety. Is there anything the state wanted to add to the record regarding juror questions?
No, sir.
Anything the defense wanted to add to the record?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything else from the state before we break?
No.
Anything else from the defense? No, Your Honor. All right, we're off the record. Counsel, how many witnesses left for today?
Oh, they killed the mics and everything. All right. While they're on break, let me update you. Thank you very much for the link. This is the alternate juror Weather Watch's link right here. That's the alternate juror web. That's a YouTube page for alternate juror. So we sent everyone over there to watch the feed. I could not get a good feed that I could share. They had one. And that it's awesome. So we sent them over there. They're a brand new channel. We'd love to show them a little bit of love. Maybe we can work together in the future. That would be great. So if you want to go over there and watch it, you can. What happened, basically, Sarah Boone was not there. Her lawyer appeared via Zoom, and the judge was there, basically asked what was up, where they're at. They say, we're having trouble with the expert witness because, we can't pay them enough to make them work. We have an expert witness apparently that has a report but won't give us a report unless we pay more money. So we'll see how that goes. They're trying to get more money out of the court. The judge has to authorize that if they do spend more than the standard rate. Alternate juror, not alternative juror. Sorry, Raina Shaw, I say it wrong. It's right in the link here from Weather Watch on the screen, and if you scroll up in the chat, it'll be there. So that happened. They're going to see if they can make the money side even out, and they can get that report. Samantha has a link straight to that video here, and if you want that one, that'll take you there as well. Thank you, Samantha. Also, apparently the judge indicated that he had received another letter from his favorite pen pal in prison, Sarah Boone. And so he said that letter is going to be posted soon. He did inform the parties of that because he has to share that. Any letter that the defendant writes to him has to share. And I'm looking at the updates. We have the court minutes in there already. We have the information about what the results were from the case, but nothing else. So we're in a hold pattern right now. Let's see. I'm waiting for that document to be scanned and uploaded. We're going to be keeping an eye on that. I think we're going to go to that live. When it does drop, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to wrap up very quickly where we're at. And then we're going to start a new stream because it's very difficult for me to have two completely different cases in one video, because it's difficult to work with a playlist. So people who want to follow just a certain trial, they have to jump around, and suddenly in the middle of Michael Turney, we have Sarah Boone. So what I'm going to do is we'll stop this live stream. We'll start a new one with Sarah Boone. I've actually built it already. I just ready to click the button and it will go live. And then we'll be able to cover that letter. Might even be the very first people to do that as we're watching and waiting with bated breath. So we've got a break right now in court. Let me skip ahead just a bit as we fast forward. Wait for it. It's just a few minute break. I will be caught up here, I think, by the time they're ready to go live this morning. Okay, people are coming in and play. All right, so we skipped the break. Boone wrote a letter to who? The judge, I believe. I believe she wrote the letter to the judge. So we're watching for that. As soon as it happens, we'll bring it to you. I'm dialed in on this one. I've got their number.
Please be seated.
This will be letter
We're
number
back on the
6.
record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. The state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State calls Charity Robinson.
Ma'am, if you'll please come forward and give the clerk your name, and she'll swear you in.
Can anybody who watched the feed confirm? I heard there was another letter. Boone has the best penmanship. She is the best at everything she does. She always excels at everything.
And then, ma'am, if you could just take a walk up that ramp there, and then have a seat on the witness stand here to my right. And you'll see that little black microphone there. If you can just make sure you're speaking into that.
Judge
Thank
said
you.
there's a new letter.
Mr. Bailey, whenever you're ready, you may proceed with your direct examination of the witness.
Thank you, Judge. Charity, can you please introduce yourself to the jury? And I forgot to note that you have a name change, so if you could provide your name back in 2001 and then now as well.
Okay, so Charity Robinson when I knew Alyssa, and Charity Bren this day. Okay. And I was friends with Alyssa.
Okay. What do you do right now for work?
I'm an office manager.
And do you live locally?
I live in Surprise.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
Mostly in Arizona. I was born in Utah, but I've lived the majority of my life here in Arizona.
All right. So did you live back in Arizona back in 2001?
I did.
And did you live in Arizona? At what point did you move from Utah to Arizona?
At the age of about 2 years old.
Right.
Does she have gum?
Did you do a police interview in 2008?
I did.
Okay. And do you remember talking about how you knew Alyssa?
I do.
How'd you meet Alyssa?
Through a mutual friend that attended the same school as us.
Okay. And approximately what age were you when that happened?
I'm a little bit hairy on that because I want to say that it was at least for my sophomore and junior year, but it may have only been just before my junior year and then throughout my junior year. But it would have been her freshman, sophomore time frame.
Okay, so can we take that to mean that you were a little bit older than Alyssa?
Yes, a couple of years older.
And we'll have to be careful. I do it often, not speaking over each other because this young lady in front of us has to take down everything we say. So we'll just be careful about not doing that.
Okay.
All right. Now, do you know what schools Alyssa went to as far as high school?
The only two that I'm aware of are Barry Goldwater and Paradise Valley.
All right. And did she go to Barry Goldwater before she went to Paradise Valley?
As far as I understand.
Okay. What high schools did you go to?
Just Barry Goldwater.
All right. So you said you're not entirely sure when you met Alyssa, but it was when you were in high school?
I apologize. I remember when I met her.
Okay.
I just don't remember the timing exactly. A mutual friend of ours had brought her over to my house. I think it was my birthday party, and that's why I believe it could have been my 16th birthday party, 17th birthday party. But I met her through a mutual friend that had brought her along to the party, and we just hit it off from there.
Okay. Well, I guess when you say hit it off, what does that mean? How well of friends were you?
Well, we just had a really good time together that evening and started to make plans to hang out with each other. She started to spend a lot of time at my house, and she just became very close with not only myself, but my family. And I guess the rest is history because, as teenage girls, what do you do to make friends? You hang out, you try to do things together, you discuss mutual interests. We just really got along really well and became very close.
What sorts of things did you and Alyssa like to do together?
Well, we were young, and neither one of us drove. At the time, neither one of us was really working. Like, I had a job, but it was paying for things that I needed and that kind of thing. But we weren't driving, so we were pretty limited in what we could do. The majority of the time was spent just hanging out at my house. Anything from reading magazines to doodling to we like to write letters to friends, so there'd be a bit of that. And we just hung out, with my family and around the neighborhood. And every once in a while, we'd, get the privilege of going to the mall or to a movie. But, the most that we did was just hang around each other, listen to music, and just do your typical teenage things.
What was Alyssa like as a friend?
Alyssa was kind. She was loyal. She was caring. She was protective. She was funny. She was just a really kind and sweet person. One of the things that stick out to me to this day is how if she loved you, she would tell anybody she could about you. She would just brag you up to, all of her other friends. I heard all about everybody. I heard all about, Stacy, all about, everybody. Just, she would talk about everybody. She would talk about her brothers and how much she loved them. And she would talk about Sarah and how much she loved her. And she just really always kind of, I guess, went out of her way to speak well and speak love to the people that she cared about.
So you talked a little bit about some of her family members. Did you ever see Alyssa and Sarah interacting?
Yeah, a few times.
Apologize, that's my fault. How did they interact?
Like a typical sister relationship would be. I'm the oldest of 5 with 3 sisters. So, I think along with that comes the territory of a little bit of spatting back and forth, a little bit of, hey, don't take my hairbrush, a little bit of, hey, get out of my room, but a lot of love at the same time. She was very protective over Sarah. She loved her a lot. She spoke kindly about her despite, the probably arguments that they got in with each other. But she had a lot of kind things, like I said, to say about everyone she cared about.
And did you know any of her brothers?
Yeah, a little. I had met each of them maybe a couple of times. There was one time that sticks out for me pretty good that we went down to Salt River, and we went down the river with, I believe, John and Mike that day. It was a really good day.
Did Alyssa appear to have a close relationship with any one brother in particular?
I think that if I had to choose, I would have to say that it was John, because she did speak about him a lot. And she did, let me know that he was one that she would run to if she needed someone that, she could talk to, that she felt good talking with. And so I would say that out of them all, she mentioned him the most, but I wouldn't say that that speaks to favoritism necessarily.
And that's a good point. To be clear, it wasn't in the context of not liking other brothers.
Right, just having more to talk about, perhaps, regarding John.
Did you know she was dating anyone?
At the time that she was at Goldwater, or?
Did you know of anyone she was dating?
At Goldwater, she had a few short relationships. At that age, a lot of them don't really go beyond a couple of weeks, a couple of months. So she did have a few short relationships at Goldwater, nothing really lasting.
Did you know about a boyfriend by the name of John Lackman?
I knew of him simply because she informed me of him, but I had never met him and know nothing of him outside of what she would have told me at the time.
Okay. Now, did you know if Alyssa had a cell phone?
It's my understanding that she did. Did she ever contact me on it? No.
Okay. And do you know if she used this is one of those instances where going 20 years into the future, life changes a little bit.
A little.
Technology changes.
Did you know her to use something like the internet?
No, I mean...
The what?
No, because there was nothing that I would have been doing on the internet with her. So, and it's not something that she talked about or that I recall her ever mentioning having a particular interest in.
Back in this time, were there things like social media that you were aware of?
We had, I think, and I may be a little bit off on time frame, but AOL was a thing, and there was online chat communities for that. But, one thing that sticks out for me in that time frame and being able to use even a platform like that is the fact that, in my particular household, there was 7 of us. So, someone always needed the phone or, the computer and so on. So I didn't personally use it a lot, and I don't recall any instances where she explains or describes using it in any way to...
And that's a good point. The questions that we're asking you are just based on what you know.
Yeah, I don't recall that ever being an interest that she and I shared at all.
All right. Did you know Alyssa's stepfather?
Did I know him?
Correct.
Yes, I did know him.
How did you know him?
Just in the times that he would be bringing her over to my house or picking her up. And there was a couple of times that I visited their home.
Okay. Well, do you see him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please state where he is seated and what he is wearing?
He's to my left here in a beige gray suit.
May the record reflect the witness identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
Did you see Alyssa and the defendant interact with each other?
Yes.
What was that interaction like?
Most of the time it was short because, as I said, it would be in the case of being dropped off or picked up. In a few cases, maybe for a ride to the mall. And in most cases, she and I would spend that time chatting with each other. But every now and again, it would be them discussing, whatever his expectations of her were normally. But yeah, I did witness them interact from time to time.
All right.
In short bursts.
Did you ever visit Alyssa at her house?
Once or twice. One time that sticks out for me is a time that I had joined her and Sarah to trick or treat. And I think I was 15, or no, I would have been older. I would have been 16 or 17, and that would have made Alyssa about 16. And of course, that's a little old, but we still had a lot of fun.
Were you aware of any video surveillance or recording that were going on in that household?
I am aware to the extent that she informed me.
So you did not have any personal knowledge of recordings occurring in that house?
Outside of seeing the phone recorder, no.
So you actually saw the phone
You
recorder?
can see that pretty easily, but I did not go inspecting for the other ones that she revealed.
So potential video surveillance cameras was something that was you were unaware of?
Only for the fact that she described them to me. I had never witnessed them personally.
All right. You said you only went over there a couple times, but it sounded like you were very good friends?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Why did I not go over there very often?
Yes.
Alyssa preferred to spend time at my home.
Okay. And can we take that to mean that Alyssa visited you at your house often?
That's right.
And it probably will loop back around to a little bit of what we've talked about, but what would you do with Alyssa at your house?
A lot of, like I had described earlier, we would most of the time just hang out in my room, watch movies, read magazines, pick on my brother and sisters. She had a bit of a ornery sense of humor, so she liked to play small pranks. So we'd do stuff like that to my siblings, and every once in a while go to the mall. Every once in a while, catch an actual movie at the theater. But for the most part, it was literally just hanging around with each other, laughing about ridiculous things and just doing your typical teenage stuff. Makeup, painting our nails. Making bracelets, friendship bracelets, like just living a normal teenage life.
And did you...
This is a friend of the daughter who went missing.
Did you know of any
murdered.
source of conflict that was in Alyssa's life?
Yeah, she described often and frequently the type of conflict that she had with her father.
Did she complain about any other people with regularity?
No.
Now, what we have talked about was your friendship with Alyssa. And you're obviously aware that, are you aware that Alyssa has gone missing?
I am.
And are you aware of the day she went missing?
I am.
Do you know what day that was?
May 17th, 2001.
Now, in the days and weeks leading up to that date, how much time were you spending with Alyssa?
None.
Why not?
We were for bed.
Hold on. Objection, Your Honor.
What is the objection?
May we approach, Your Honor? It's a hearsay, but may we approach?
You may.
Okay, mics are off. So the objection here was, why were you not spending time with Alyssa after you described your friendship as being so close and she loved being at your house and you were there all the time? Right before she went missing, why were you not together? And that's where the objection's coming in, a hearsay objection. But she said they were forbidden. That came out. The jury heard that. You can't unring the bell. But we're getting to some juicy stuff the defense does not want out. And just remember, the defense has filed motion after motion after motion to keep evidence out of this trial. A lot of evidence. And so we're going to hear, as that evidence comes in, we're going to hear objections again. Even though there was everything handled in pretrial conferences and everything else, we're going to hear those objections raised again in court, even if they're just to renew the objections prior to.
Legal issue up with counsel. I'm just going to ask you to go to the jury room. It should only take a few minutes. Please remember the admonition. You can leave everything in the courtroom. The jury's now excused.
Mrs. R.A. just informed me for the second time in our marriage that there's a bird in our house. What room is it in? It's in the dining room. There's a bird in our dining room. Is that a legal issue that I need to take care of? I think it's little, but it's going to fly against all the windows. And I'm worried it's going to fly into these
the presence
lights.
of counsel and the defendant. Jury is not present. So the question was, why did you not spend time with Alyssa around the time of her disappearance? And the objection was hearsay. So help me understand what the hearsay objection is for that question.
Your Honor, this is a specific motion in limine that was filed in your court where you ruled that does not come in. Your ruling states that they can ask questions about if they stopped hanging out, but not why. That was the exact point of this. They brought it up knowing they was going to elicit that answer, which is in direct violation of your motion in limine.
So before I hear anything else, let's look at that ruling. And counsel, if you can look at the ruling and just refer me to exactly which portion of the ruling you're referring to.
The judge's like, I don't remember that. It flew out of the house. Mrs. R.A. took care of it. I taught her well. I handled the last bird. So.
It is not on the docket yet, but your ruling was in open court.
If it's not on the docket, did it ever happen?
Of the first day. No, the minute entry from the first trial day. It's at the very bottom.
It is.
Yes, Mr. R.A. opened a door and shooed it out.
Jessica Lane.
You had to fly through 2 rooms to get out, but 2 additional rooms from the room it was in. Either the hallway and the entryway, or the dining room and the entryway, or the hallway and the front room.
Your Honor, it is on page 6 of
2 rooms.
The 6/19/2023 minute entry. The court is in receipt of defendant's motion in limine, Charity Robinson testimony, bullet points 1 through 8, filed 5/10/2023. It is ordered. Let me find the exact one.
I wonder if they remember this ruling as happening differently.
Number 4, granting defendant's motion to preclude the witness from testifying about any reference to or testimony regarding Alyssa's alleged statement that the defendant forbade her from being friends with Charity. However, Charity may testify about any incidents that she witnessed. This question was directly at why, and she was about to say that, and she did actually say at the beginning of the interview that it was that the defendant forbade us. That is in direct violation of the minute entry. The state knew that question was going to draw out that answer and chose to do it anyway in violation of the court order.
Any response from the state? If you can talk into the microphone.
Thank you, Judge. State's position is showing that, trying to clarify why she did not spend time with Alyssa, that she had not had prior contact with her into the weeks and months leading up. That was the point of the question, not to elicit that the father forbade her.
So when you ask why they had not been spending time together around the time of her disappearance, what did you anticipate the answer to be?
I anticipated the answer being our relationship had stopped and we were not spending time with each other.
Okay.
That was my response.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. So have you instructed the witness that she can't talk about any statements that Alyssa made to her about the defendant forbidding them from being friends?
I believe I told the witness that the witness cannot speak to anything that she does not have personal knowledge of, and I've told the witness of the areas that have been specifically precluded.
Okay. All right. Well, there's certainly a way to answer that question that does not run afoul of the court's ruling. So I'll allow the.
But her answer already said out of her mouth that the defendant forbade.
I didn't.
That was what she said.
I didn't hear what her answer was because I was trying to clarify the objection. So to the extent that the jury heard that, you can make a motion to strike. I'll grant it. And then Mr. Bailey may ask his next question. I think we're all on the same page at this point.
Will the defense and the court allow me to lead through that area so we can be sure that the witness does not go into that area?
Yes, we talked about that on previous things. I have no objection to that, but that's,
Okay, so he's going to get to
lead. I think the cat's already out of the bag. To sit here and say, oh, that's not what I wanted when it was the exact question, it's running afoul of the rules, Your Honor. And it seems that everything that's going on in this case is they're trying to circumvent the court's orders.
Well, again, I think there is a way to answer that question that runs afoul of the court's rule. I'm still speaking. I think there's a way to answer the question that runs afoul of the court's ruling. I think there's a way to answer the question that does not run afoul of the court's ruling. Again, I didn't hear the witness answer. If you did, I'm happy to entertain a motion to strike in front of the jury, but I didn't hear it. So
I am asking for that. I'm also asking for a mistrial with prejudice. This is state prosecutorial misconduct. This is eliciting information that has been precluded. This isn't the first time this has happened in this trial.
The motion for mistrial is denied, and it doesn't do you any good to ask me to strike while the jury's not here. Ask me to strike when the jury is here, and I'll do it in front of the jury and direct them to disregard. Anything else before we bring the jury in?
Yes, Judge. The state would elicit additional testimony from this witness that when she stopped seeing Alyssa, their friendship did not discontinue at that point. They continued to try to write to each other. They continued to see her in places other than, and I will make sure I don't say this, but other than when her father was present. So the state intends to go into that as well.
All right, as long as you're not violating any rule of the court.
I don't see them. I didn't see either as being violating the rule, Judge.
Okay. Anything else?
That
is skirting around that rule so closely. They're getting every bit
Anything
of
else
evidence.
before we bring the jury in?
without
No, I
that
would just maybe
one word.
ask that the county attorney go over the areas that are not be precluded so we don't have this issue again.
I didn't understand what you just said.
I would ask the county attorney to show Ms. Robinson the areas or talk to her about the areas that she is not allowed to go into, just so we're clear that it doesn't happen again.
I think he's indicated that he has already told her that. So it's a great idea. He's told me he's already done it.
Okay. And then she still violated it.
Anything else before we bring the jury in?
No, Judge.
All right. I seem to have lost Angela.
Angela? Where's Angela? Paging Angela. Okay, so that is spicy. Just judges on thin ice for mistrial. It seems like a direct violation of a court order. I mean, that they literally almost asked verbatim the question they were ordered not to ask, and they got the answer that was ordered. The reason why came out. It came out. The answer that they were not allowed to solicit came out in front of the jury. Now they're going to try to strike this. How many mistrials? Somebody do the math here. Where are we at on mistrial? We're still in single digits. Obviously, it's rare to get in the double digits, but I think that was reserved for like Zachariah Anderson or something. Wow. This is the spiciness that's setting up for the cross. You can imagine this cross is going to be fiery.
Somebody's phone appears to be ringing.
One of the jurors, your phone is ringing?
Please be seated. We are back on the record. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Mr. Jackson, you had a motion.
Yes, Your Honor. I would motion to strike the witness's last statement.
The court will grant the motion to strike and will direct the jury to disregard her last answer. Mr. Bailey, you may ask your next question.
Thank you. And some of these questions I'm going to lead you through, so they may require just a yes or no answer. Do you know the date that Alyssa went missing?
Yes.
What date was that?
May 17th, 2001.
Did you stop spending time with Alyssa in the months and weeks leading up to that day?
Months leading to.
Do you know approximately how long before that date?
Maybe 10 months.
10.
Did you still want to spend time with Alyssa?
I did.
And this is based on your interaction. Did you have interactions with Alyssa?
She wrote me through the U.S. Postal Service. And every now and again, when she would make it on my side of town, she'd try to pop into my house and say hi. And then there was one time that she showed up at my work and visited with me.
So one of the things you still did was write letters back and forth to each other.
I didn't write her. She wrote me.
Thank you. So she wrote you?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Now, you said you're aware of the last day, the day that Alyssa went missing. How are you aware of that date?
I first heard about it because someone had noticed her flyer. And then not too long after that, Michael Turney called my home to speak to my mother and informed us at that point that she was missing.
Okay. Did you... Now, on the last day of school, were you two... Was your school situation such that you could see each other at school?
Between classes, and then we didn't have any classes together that I recall, but, sometimes you would end up in the same class as lower classmen for things like art or PE, but most of the time she and I would just see each other in passing.
Okay. And you said you received, there was a phone call by the defendant at your house?
That's right. Well, I did not receive the call personally.
And that's what I was going to clarify. How did you become aware of that?
My mother informed me she received the call.
Okay. Did you do anything at that point to try to locate Alyssa?
I didn't have any phone number, or I didn't know who her friends were at the time, outside of a few names that she had mentioned. I had no recourse to try to locate her.
Okay. And the time that you could see Alyssa, how would you said you didn't call her by her cell phone? How would you try to get in contact with her if she was...
I basically just waited for her to reach out to me.
Okay.
This witness said we were forbidden.
And have you done anything since that time in an attempt to locate or hear from Alyssa?
When Google became a thing, I started to look for her name and search her name and see what I could find out. And that's actually how I found John eventually on MySpace, I think. Yes, over the years, I've made attempts to see what I can find out.
Okay. And since May 17, 2001, have you ever heard from Alyssa?
No.
And have you ever seen Alyssa again?
No.
No additional questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Cross-examination, Mr. Jackson.
It's going to get good here. Do we want to slow this down? Hold on just 1 second. We're going to slow this part down because I've been told this gets a little bit spicy as we're catching up, but I don't want to miss anything as we're going through here. Let's see. We're going to get this at regular speed just so it's as spicy as it can be. Okay, hold tight, and we are back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My understanding is that you met Alyssa when she was a freshman at Barry Goldwater?
I believe so.
And you would have been a junior that year?
I would have been a sophomore. I was a sophomore when I met her.
She was one.
I think we're a year apart.
1 year apart, okay. Would you have graduated from Barry Goldwater the year she disappeared?
Yes.
And you would regularly see her till the end of her sophomore year? Correct?
That's right.
And that would have been the end of your junior year?
That's right.
But the last time you saw Alyssa was about 6 months before she ran away, correct?
Roughly, yeah. It was when I was employed at Susie Mama Bear. And the time period for that is a little hairy for me, but it would have had to have been prior to February of that year.
Is that when you quit that place?
That's right.
Okay. So at some point, she came to visit you, and this was a short, brief 5-minute encounter.
Yeah.
And you never saw or spoke with her again after that?
That's right.
You described Alyssa as a loving person?
Yes.
You also told Detective Anderson she could be mischievous?
Not in a harmful way, sure.
You told her she was mischievous. That's what you told the detective.
Yeah,
correct?
that's the word I chose. That's right.
You told him she was boy crazy?
I said that?
No.
Detective Anderson. I think that every 16, 17-year-old girl's a little boy crazy, but I wouldn't say that it was anything out of the norm.
Okay. You said she was a party girl and loved to go out?
I said that she was a party girl and loved to go out. Well, I don't recall saying that, but I don't see why I would, because we didn't really have any means to go out.
Okay. Did you ever describe her as a space cadet?
I don't remember. I don't recall referring to her as a space cadet.
Could she be a space cadet? I mean, those were your words.
Maybe after we smoked a joint.
So that also happened.
She didn't talk about future plans with you. She kind of lived in the moment, I think, is what you told the detective.
She did discuss future plans with me.
You told the detective that she didn't talk about future plans and she lived in the moment.
I need a little more context to really reveal to you why I have said that exactly. But she did speak to me about future plans.
Okay. It was your observation that Sarah and Alyssa were treated differently, correct?
Yes.
Sarah got positive attention?
Correct.
Alyssa got negative attention?
Not always, but for the majority of the time, yeah.
But that's what you told the detective. They were treated differently. Alyssa got negative attention, correct?
She got, yes, negative attention.
But Alyssa did get some positive attention.
Yes.
When she was behaving and doing good.
That's an opinion.
Okay. Well, when she was, at times she was allowed to go out with her friends, correct?
Yeah.
Look at the
She went
angle
over
of
to
her
your
head.
house.
Yeah, she was allowed at my house.
She was allowed to go to school dances.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we were allowed to do and enjoyed quite much.
In regards to the
field dances.
Sorry. In regards to the negative attention, is it possible the negative attention was because she was misbehaving?
I do not believe so.
Doing drugs?
I do not believe so.
Drinking?
I do not believe so.
She was sneaking out.
I don't know about that.
She was doing poorly in school.
I don't know about that either.
You were at the Turney home several times, correct?
A couple.
You even spent the night once.
Once, yeah.
This is so good.
Were you aware of contracts that Mr. Turney had Alyssa sign?
Because she had
I'm asking
informed
you,
me, yes.
are you aware?
I am aware.
Are you aware of a contract that he had your parents sign?
He attempted to, but they did not oblige.
Were you present when that took place?
I was not.
Okay, so you don't have any knowledge of what went on with that conversation except for what your mom may have told you.
What my mom did tell me.
But I'm not going to ask you. You're not allowed to say what other people say. So you don't have any personal knowledge of those contracts.
No.
Did you ever see them?
I did not see them.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Bailey, any redirect?
Look at that smirk. Yeah, this evidence is all hearsay. The whole trial is. Wow. And a wink. And the side eye. Oh my goodness. The body language coming off this witness stand is amazing. She's grinning from ear to ear inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, any members of the jury have any questions for this witness? It appears that there are none. May the witness be excused.
The witness may.
Any objection?
Not from the defense.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be excused.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state will call John Turney.
John Turney, the name's the same as the defendant, so this is probably
Sir,
going
if you'll
to be
please come forward and approach the clerk,
son.
she'll get your name from you and swear you in.
Charity was so good. That was awesome. So this is the brother of the son of the defendant. I'm not sure if it's stepson or full son. The contract.
Sir, if you'll please take a walk up the ramp and have a seat on the witness stand here to my right.
We've heard about this contract, but we have not seen it yet, especially when it refers to Charity's parents. That was a new one for me.
Will we briefly approach?
On or off?
Off the record.
Yes. Why don't you come up behind the witness?
Okay, so new witness on the stand, and they've already called to approach. We've got a sidebar going on. This is so good. Wow. That you can sense the tension between the two tables is palpable. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait. This is going to explode at some point during this trial. This is going to be fantastic. Amy H51 just gifted 5 memberships. They went to Picky, Angie Childress, Homeschool Ground Zero. I know that girl. Thank you, Mrs. R.A. Kayla's Diaries and Jamie A. That is just awesome. Thank you very much, Amy51. For those that are new here, if you turn the setting on to accept gifts on this channel, you too may be gifted a membership. When they're gifted out, you'd be included in the pool of possible
Mr. Bailey, whenever you're ready, you may proceed with your direct examination of the witness.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm John Turney.
Okay. And where do you currently live?
In California.
All right. How long have you lived in California?
5.5 years now.
All right. And what do you do for work?
I work for a gas company.
Okay. Now, going back a little bit, where were you born?
In Torrance, California.
Okay. And who is your mother and father?
My mother is Barbara, and my father is also named John and lives in California.
Okay. Now, well, did you do some interviews with the Phoenix Police Department?
I believe I had one with Summershoe.
Okay. So you have done, do you know if that was approximately back in 2008, 2009?
Yeah, I don't have a timeline on that one.
That's fine, but you recall doing an interview?
Yes.
How was Alyssa related to you?
She's my sister.
Okay. And so we've heard a little bit about step siblings and so forth, but was she your biological sister?
Yes, through my mother.
All right. And again, your mother was Barbara?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did Barbara marry the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall when that was?
I think I was 7. So 86.
Okay.
Something like that.
At some point, well, where were you living when that happened?
In Phoenix.
All right. So at some point, Barbara moved you to Phoenix?
I moved here when I was about 4.
Okay. And was she already married to the defendant at that time?
No.
Okay. So she brought you and Alyssa to Phoenix, and is that where she met?
No, Alyssa was not born yet. Alyssa was born in Phoenix.
So we're going back a little bit. We're probably talking over each other. When was Alyssa born?
84.
And was she born in Phoenix or California?
In Phoenix.
All right. And so, do you remember at what age she came to live? You and her came to live with Michael, the defendant, Michael Turney.
How old I was?
How old she was?
She was maybe 3.
At some point, does your mother get sick?
Yes.
And when did she pass away?
In 1993.
Okay. Once she passed away, where were you and Alyssa living?
In Redding at the time, actually in California.
At this point, did you know Michael Seth?
My brother?
Correct.
Yes.
Did you know Rhett Turney?
Yes.
Did you know James Turney?
Yes.
And were those your stepbrothers?
Yes.
Do you recall why you moved to Phoenix?
Originally?
Correct.
No.
And also, Sarah Turney, is that your stepsister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
That's a good.
Not my stepsister. She's my biological sister as well.
Okay, that's a good point. If it comes up from time to time, uh-huhs and ums don't translate well, so we need to say yes or no. So it goes a little without saying, but is the defendant your stepfather?
Yes, my adopted father.
We're catching up on this part from yesterday, then we'll be live this afternoon with this morning's trial.
And how long did you live with him?
10, 11 years.
All right. That whole time was Alyssa and Sarah living with you as well?
Yes.
And did Rhett and James live with you for a period of time as well?
Yes.
Do you recall when you moved out from the defendant's residence?
Not the year per se, but maybe 1997.
Okay. And how old would you have been at that time?
18.
Okay. Now, can you describe a little bit what your relationship was like with Alyssa?
We were close as we had grown up together, and she's, I was her big brother.
So the fact that you had the same mother, Barbara, did you feel that created some kind of special relationship between you and this family dynamic?
I'm sure it was. I mean, it was her and I brought into this new family, so we were close.
Now, did you still get along with your stepbrothers?
Yes.
And did you get along with Sarah Turney?
Yes.
Did you get along with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. So we have heard and even seen some photos of Alyssa, but we don't really have a context of what her physical appearance and description is like. So do you remember, and obviously inches and feet aren't necessarily important if you can't recall that, but about how tall Alyssa was?
Maybe 5'6".
Okay.
5'6", 5'7".
Let me put it this way, did she appear to be a taller than average maybe girl?
Yes.
Was she taller than Sarah at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And was her weight normal, what you would expect for a teenager?
Yeah.
We might speed this up again. It's going slowly.
How much time did you spend with Alyssa before you moved out?
Before I moved out of the house?
Correct.
Just much as any two teenagers would. Or she's a little younger than that, but I mean, we spent quite a bit of time together as children.
And would she talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
And would she?
Yes.
What's that?
Would she confide in you?
Yes.
Did you know about her friends?
Yes, most of them.
Can you remember any of their names?
Katie, Charity, Stacy, Shay, quite a few.
Okay. Did you ever? Well, at the time after you moved out, did you still spend time with Alyssa?
From time to time.
Okay. Did the frequency of your visits or interactions decrease because you moved out?
Yes.
All right. However, would she still talk to you and confide to you and things about things?
Yeah, for the most part, whatever was going on in her life.
At some point, did Alyssa move in with you?
She stayed with us for a short period of time, yes.
And when I say in with you, were you living with someone else as well?
I was living with my brother, Mike, yes.
Okay. And so it gets a little complicated, but defendant is a Michael Turney,
Mm-hmm.
and your stepbrother was Michael Seth Turney?
Correct.
Okay. And so you two were living with each other, and Alyssa moved in?
Yes. I wouldn't say moved in, but she was staying with us.
All right. And do you recall about how long that was?
As much as I can recollect, probably about 2 weeks.
So a very short period of time?
Right.
Do you know if prior to moving in with you, she was living with the defendant?
Yes.
And do you know if she then went back to live with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So obviously this is coming from the perspective of someone who was around 18 or younger at the time. But what was Alyssa like as you knew her?
Just my little sister. I mean, she was fun-loving. She was a lot like me as a teenager.
Okay.
So, outgoing.
Was she would you characterize her as a problem child?
No, she had her struggles, but I don't think she was a problem child.
All right, fair enough. And so you may have not been a perfect angel either.
No.
A typical teenager?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sorry, yes.
All teenagers think they're typical.
Did you know if she had a job?
At Jack in the Box, yes.
Did you ever visit her when she was at Jack in the Box?
I did not.
Don't like Jack in the Box food?
I don't eat fast food.
And did you know where she went to school?
Yes.
Where did she go to school?
In Paradise Valley at that time.
Okay. And before that, as far as high school, where was she going?
I barely remember going to Barry Goldwater because I went there, but that's I do remember going there for a year.
All right. Did you graduate from Barry Goldwater, or did you graduate?
I did.
Now, were you aware if Alyssa had anything like a fake ID?
I am not aware of a fake ID if she had one.
Were you aware if she used any drugs?
I do know about marijuana use.
Okay. And that was something you saw?
Yes.
Do you know about any other type of drugs?
No.
Okay. How did you see Sarah and Alyssa interact?
Yes, frequently.
And how did they interact?
Like two teenage siblings. Normal fights, I'm assuming that two teenage girls would have.
From your personal observations and what you could see, did you believe that Alyssa cared for her sister?
Yes, indeed.
Were you aware if Alyssa had dated a man by the name of John Lackman?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see Alyssa and John Lackman interacting with each other?
I have.
What were your observations of John Lackman?
Just a typical teenager. I didn't think much of him, but it's not for me to decide.
And I don't think he's here, so nothing concerning about him. Is that what you would say?
It was a long time ago too. I could be a bit critical as an older brother.
Did Alyssa have a cell phone?
I don't really remember whether she had a cell phone or not.
And if you needed to get in touch with Alyssa, how'd you do that?
It would just be by either calling our father or going over there.
Okay.
Carrier pigeon.
And from the time that you knew her, did you know her to use the internet?
No.
And it can be difficult to even think about a time when there was an internet, but that wasn't something that you saw.
No, I didn't even use the internet until well after I was an adult.
Were you aware if she had any pets?
I think she had a ferret.
And did she have a ferret at the time she went missing? If you know.
I don't remember.
Thank you, New Bunk Foss.
Are you aware of Alyssa ever breaking her nose when you were with her?
I don't remember that.
Breaking her nose. That was a random question.
All right. You said you would visit Alyssa. Would you go over to the 17217 residence?
I'm not sure which address that is. I know that there was the two across the street from each other. I'm assuming that's the first one.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Were you personally aware of any video surveillance in that house?
Yeah, I was made aware long after that discussion had come up. I was not aware.
Okay, so based on the times that you were physically in that house, it wasn't something that you saw or knew about?
No.
Okay. What about a recording device for the telephone?
If I saw it, or I probably knew about it, but I vaguely remember anything about it.
Okay.
This is how I would be on the stand. I'd be like, can you
Judge,
refresh my recollection?
I'm about to go into a whole new area.
Okay.
This might be a good time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break a little bit early today. So have a nice evening. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room by 10:30 tomorrow morning. Please remember the admonition. Please take everything with you when you leave the courtroom. And jury's now excused. Sir, you're free to step down.
All right, for the jury.
Okay, we still do not have the letter from the judge, or letter to the judge from Sarah Boone. I'm watching constantly. Has not been posted yet. I'm hoping any moment now that this gets processed. I realize they have a lot of documents to process, but let's see if they have anything else today. So what we were following today was yesterday's events, and in Arizona, they're about to start today's proceedings. So even though we're behind, we'll be on time for this afternoon, which helps. It works better for our schedule to watch the afternoon stuff in the morning. It's just how most of us
Let the record show the presence of counsel and the defendant. The jury is not present. The defense has filed a motion to preclude any further mention of or reference to sexual abuse and molest during the state's case in chief. The state has filed a response. So, in regard to the state's response, I know the state had objected. Was the state anticipating, I'm not sure what the state anticipates presenting further in its case in chief on the topic of sexual molest.
So, Judge, first of all, the state is not seeking to, the state has agreed not to omit certain evidence, and those are in prior 404B motions, and those are because we do not have, there's personal knowledge and foundational issues for those. However, going forward, there will be, let me talk to my co-counsel for a second.
The prosecution wants these to come in. They want all these allegations. They want these references to pop in. It definitely colors the witness in this particular light.
I'm gonna, just because my co-counsel has the witnesses that would deal with that issue.
Let's give him the microphone then.
There'll be a reference to a letter the defendant wrote to CPS expressing his concern that his daughter Alyssa was going to make accusations against him, not specifically child abuse or sexual abuse. And then specifically when there's a recorded conversation, we have a transcript of it between the defendant and this last witness when Alyssa was going to stay with him in the summer of 2000. And the defendant is warning that to be careful, that she'll accuse them of sexual abuse, and I can't remember the exact word. And let's see. The contract, of course, but
let me just clarify what you just said. In the recording, the defendant is warning John that Alyssa would accuse them. Who is them?
The two brothers.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think that's the extent of it. Again,
witnesses might bring it up, though. There are questions they're asking. This
it's not John. She's going to be staying with John and Mike, but it's Michael Seth that he's talking to.
Okay.
We don't have a witness who's going to say, Alyssa told me that she was being molested.
Okay. So there's two additional pieces of evidence that the state is going to seek to introduce. One is the letter written by the defendant to CPS with concerns that Alyssa would make some allegations against him that didn't specifically refer to molestation or sexual abuse. Was the defense referring to that item in this motion?
No, and I believe there would be four things that the state would still, if they're counting that one, be to get into. Obviously, the contract was ruled by.
Well, hold on. Before we get there, let me just clarify the items the state has talked about first. So the first item, the defense is not referring to that in its motion.
No.
The second item is the recorded conversation between Michael and the defendant, where the defendant warns that Alyssa would be accusing the brothers of molestation. Was the defense referring to that?
Nope.
So what is the defense referring to if those are the only items that the state intends to elicit in their case in chief?
And if that's all they're trying to do, then we're fine. The issue is they've brought up the 2020 article or the interview. They haven't played that to the jury yet. We also believe that that shouldn't come in. There is conversations with Sarah. They didn't bring those in now. I don't know if they're still playing where she's asking them questions about what she learned. And that was our issue, is that she's heard this hearsay. She's asking him about it and he's denying it. And so if they're not bringing those in, then we don't have any issue with those. If they're laying to these specific 4 things and we'll approach the court before they do something else, and I don't think we have an issue.
All right, Mr. Imbordino, as to the 2 additional matters that Mr. Jackson just referred to, was the state intending on introducing either of those?
Well, I didn't ask Ms. Turney about it, so I think, no, I didn't ask about it.
This was filed yesterday. That was
number 1. And number 2, yeah, I thought we'd already discussed what I played in my opening statement. So I do intend to introduce the clip where the moderator asked him, did you molest your daughter? And the defendant's responses to that.
That seems prejudicial.
I haven't formally introduced it as an exhibit, but I intend to do so.
Okay. All right. So we can sort of cross that bridge when we get to it. But the items raised by Mr. Jackson regarding the 2020 interview.
He is stuck to the 20.
The clip is from the 2020 interview. Got it.
Correct.
All right. So before the jury hears any content of that, I'll definitely make a ruling on that. I'll direct nobody to mention the contents of it until I make a ruling. But the conversations with Sarah, you've indicated you're not going to go into. So I think the motion is resolved as granted.
There is another issue because we also brought up, I believe, the podcast Octavia. I don't know if that's something that they intend to
I'm not going to play that.
It's a similar conversation. Perfect.
All right. Motion resolved. As to the motion for mistrial, I have read the motion and the response. I think these are issues that we've taken up separately. The defense has put them together in a motion for mistrial. I've read the motion and the response. The motion for mistrial is denied. Counsel, anything else we can talk about before we break for today?
Not from the state.
Mr. Jackson.
What?
Not at this time, Your Honor, no.
All right, counsel, have a nice evening. We'll see you at 10:15 tomorrow. I'm trying to get everybody on tomorrow's calendar to get here early so we don't do this again. So I'll do my best. We'll see you tomorrow. We're at recess.
All right, so that's where we're at. Now we're current, and they are about to begin trial in a little while. I think in about an hour or so the trial starts. Their trial starts at 10:30 their time. They're 3 hours ahead, so maybe 2 hours. We have a 2-hour break. It would be really convenient if right now, sorry, let me enunciate properly. If the Sarah Boone letter dropped. That would be perfect timing right now because we have this gap. We ended up not having to go as fast as we thought, and that's all good. Okay, cameras are shut down from the courtroom. When has the judge ever granted the motion of mistrial? We haven't seen one live. We haven't seen one, but it's happened. I mean, these mistrials occur. It looks like the judge actually, he granted the motion by the defense to preclude the prosecution from bringing up SA basically in the rest of the trial. And so it sounds like that has been granted. There's a live chase in LA a short time ago. We missed it. Oh man. He's not squeaky clean. No, there's some issues here. There's a lot of issues, and I think those are going to keep arising with each of these witnesses. The stuff they are allowed to bring in, that the state is planning on admitting, is not hearsay. It's statements by the defendant, and statements by defendant generally are allowed to be brought in. I believe. It just depends how they do this, but So we'll see what they're able to do there. So we're up to date on this trial currently. Expecting a little bit. Who knows the exact time it starts? Is it 1:30? Do we have 2 hours? 2 hours and 15 minutes. Is it 1:30 that the trial starts? You know what that gives me time to do? It gives me time to go hang some more drywall. Oh, man. Love hanging drywall. It's going to be fun. It's going to take like 3 days to mud it. It's going to be awesome. But and then I'll have my lungs full of drywall dust because no mask can keep that out. Now RA has time to clean up the bird mess in his living room. I want to go out and survey the damage. I imagine if it was a starling. Starlings are actually pretty smart birds. You can train them to eat on command, and that's about it. 3 hours behind, so 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30. 1:30 is when we're going to start, which means we start at 1:15. Let's see. Mary Murphy, the other channel that was covering Sarah Boone, there's no way they're live because that was in Florida, and now she's live streaming in Texas, the Border Patrol officer. Florida was... Florida, she started at 8 this morning. Sarah Boone was very quick. It was very quick. So it was neat to see that. Still wear the mask. Yeah, it protects a little bit. It has a little bit less dust in my lungs. What's the deal with Sarah Boone? Here's what happened today. We had a hearing for Sarah Boone in which Sarah Boone was not present. She waived her right to be present. She will be present at another hearing, which is scheduled between now and when her court case begins. We don't know exactly when. It's most likely going to be Friday the 21st. That's the Friday before the trial begins on the 24th. So that is... That was one part of it. Another part is that the state basically said, hey, we've been having trouble with our expert witnesses. Basically, they don't want to work for the amount the state is willing to pay. So they're begging for more money to pay the expert witness so they can release the report. I don't know what the outcome of that is, if they're going to get the extra couple thousand or double the money. I don't know how much the expert witness is requesting before they'll actually release the report to the defense. That report's going to have to do with the battered wife situation and why that's a defense to this charge of murder. But they're also trying to make sure this date holds on the 24th. The judge also introduced just a fun fact that hey, his pen pal in prison, his favorite prisoner, Sarah Boone, has written to him yet again. And said that he's going to be making that letter available to everybody, and it's going to be posted soon. It has not posted yet. We have the court minutes, we have the courts, the comments about the new hearing, and that's it. So I'm watching with bated breath for as soon as that letter drops because we want to go live with that and share that with y'all. That would just be the best. Letter number 6 is what it's going to be. Letter number 6 to the judge. So. Now, with the time difference, they're about to start their day as we're ready to take lunch. So what we're going to do is, here's what we plan. Assuming this letter takes a couple days to get filed, which a couple of the previous ones have, which is a little disappointing. We'd like to see it done right now, but they have a lot of work to do. If the Sarah Boone letter does not drop today, we will take lunch. We will start again with this case live as it resumes in Arizona at 1:30. Obviously, we'll be watching the entire day for the Sarah Boone letter. If that drops, we're gonna stop a new live stream and pick it up there, and then pick up where we left off. And then we're going to do again tomorrow what we did this morning, which means we don't have to stay up late into the night. Our regular schedule of watching a court will work. We'll just be catching up on this afternoon's events tomorrow morning before court starts. So we'll be on time every time they go live, with the exception of the afternoon. Is that feasible for everybody? Does that work? How dare they make us wait? I know. The letter is there. It's on somebody's desk in a big stack with a paperclip and a little Post-it note on there that says scan into file, and it's got the court case 2020 CF 002603-AO. That's Sarah Boone's court case, and it's got that on there. And so we're just waiting for it to be posted, and then we'll be able to go live with it. I have the placeholder built. I click the button and it will be live. I just don't know when it will be. I'd love to be the first place you can find it to be right here. So as I continue to watch this and look for updates, I'd love it if any of you who are also document hounds can keep an eye out for this. And if you see it before I do, send me a quick text on the burner phone, and we'll be able to share that with y'all. All right, that means it's lunchtime. It's an early lunch for us. It's only 11:18 here on the East Coast, and we already get a little bit of a break. This is the burner phone. Thank you for care. If you ever need the burner phone number, anytime we're live, just type !burner in chat. And lo and behold, if it works, which apparently it's not doing, just wait for it. Is it not working? Okay, hold on. Let me check this. It shows it's working. Ari's going to go eat some drywall, says Ashley. You are not wrong. You're not wrong.
Is that correct?
No, there's the burner phone. Okay, it just took a second to post on my side. So save that number, post it in your, or save it in your contacts. You might need it in a pinch. It hasn't changed since we've started. At one point, I'm sure I'm going to have to burn the burner phone and get a new burner phone. But so far, we have not had need to do that. We will be going live again 1:30 Eastern Time, probably about 15 minutes earlier than that, just so we can get up to speed and get ready and not miss anything when they go live. Looks like Amber is already on the hunt for that Sarah Boone letter. I think she has the same information I do, but I think she'll find it before I do. That's just how it goes. Amber is good at doing that. She can sniff out a fresh document better than anybody. All right, that being said, it's time for a little bit of music. We're going to wrap things up. We are going to be back this afternoon live from Arizona with the Michael Turney court case, the cold case out of Arizona with no body, no murder weapon, and nobody knows if there's ever going to be any firm evidence that points to Michael Turney. We'll see. We'll see how this ends up. It's going to be fun. It's lunchtime now, though, so plan to have a little bit of break. If you're in a hot area, have something cool, refreshing. I suggest lemonade. I have pink lemonade, I think, on the shelf that I'm going to mix up for my lunch with whatever it is I eat. Probably a sandwich, because I don't want to cook. It's just too warm for that. But we'll see what Mrs. Ari has in mind as well. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again 1:15 this afternoon. Let's say 1:15. We'll be back, and we'll be live with the Michael Turney case with that. And maybe sometime in the middle, keep your notifications turned on, because when that letter drops, I don't care if you just barely ordered lunch. I don't care if you're in the drive-thru about to pick up your order. We're going to go live when that letter drops. As soon as it happens, we'll bring you the latest letter from Sarah Boone. It'll happen here soon. It's coming. I just don't know when. Maybe today. All right, we'll see you guys after lunch. Have a good one.
Is that correct?